And welcome to the Critical Cinema Club. I'm Colm.
I'm Sean.
And this week we decided to do something a little bit different. And that was talk about Star Trek, because we rarely do that, do we, Sean?
This might be the first time we've talked about it in about a week or so. I'm not sure.
So this is something that I've wanted to get off my chest for a number of weeks. And it is to rank all 13 Star Trek films in subjectively how I feel worst to best is and how Sean feels worst to best is. So we're not going to do a definitive Critical Cinema Club list. This is what, you know, these films are in ranking order and blah blah blah. Don't feel like we've got enough stroke out in the world of fandom for us to be able to do that. So this is purely two fans of the same franchise who may have very different views and ideas and opinions, because correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, you're more of a fan of, say, Voyager and Enterprise than I would be, and I would say possibly my thing is more the TOS movies. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say anything Next Generation onwards is more my bag. I mean, I enjoy TOS. I think it's great, but not as much. I mean, if it wasn't for Next Gen, would I even be a Trekkie? Big question.
Well, yeah, I mean, the same with me. I mean, I did have a lot of the original series to grow up with my dad and everything, but we all watched Next Generation as well. But I mean, I've always been a TOS movie fan, so that's always my go-to, and then everything else is kind of secondary to that. So if I had a choice of watching, say, Best of Both Worlds on for the Next Generation or watch Star Trek 3, I'd definitely watch Star Trek 3. That's just my go-to. So. But I think to dive straight into this, because I'm sure we're probably going to have a lot to talk about as we go.
Yeah.
So we're going to include the J.J. Abrams movies within this. So it's 13 to number 1. Sean, would you like to tell me what you would rank as your number 13?
I would love to. And I think this is going to be one of the reasons we cannot do a definitive list, because this would not be your number 13. I'll be surprised if it's your number 13. Our list is going to be so different. So I gave this film a chance last night.
I knew you were going to say this one.
It'd been a long time since I'd watched it, and I thought, is it as... And I don't want to say bad, because I like all the Star Trek movies, but some I like a lot more than others. And I thought, you know what? It's been so long since I watched Star Trek the Motion Picture. So ironic.
Oh, we seem to have lost Sean. I'm just going to sit in silence until he comes back. Are you there? I'm all alone. I'm on my own here. So anyway, so Sean chose Star Trek the Motion Picture, and I'm going to make a note of that because I don't quite agree with it. But there we go. Here he is. He's back now. Oh, I was slating you there when you were away.
Yeah.
Proper ripping on you.
I think someone who's a big motion picture fan kicked me out of the group for a second.
That weren't me.
I was just getting into. I don't know if you could hear what I was saying, but what I was saying was I put it on last night, and I thought I want to give it a chance, because I have always put it dead last, but it's been such a long time since I've seen it. I thought I'll give it a go. And when I put it on last night, I was actually really enjoying it for the first 20, 30 minutes, because, you know, all the things I would associate with the things that I like about Star Trek, like the modern scores and the visuals and the sound effects, that was the beginning of the good times. And I thought, oh, you know what, maybe it's not that bad. But the lingering shots lingering is not even the right word. I don't need what the right word would be. You know, the tour that Scott... But you know what was making me laugh, right? There's this cloud coming to Earth. It's going to kill everybody. We've got to go now. And for some reason, this is the only spaceship within 3 days of Earth, which is absolute bollocks as well. It's always the case. And but bearing in mind, it's super massive emergency. But Scott, he says, I'll take you on a wee tour. And oh my God, it's like 10 minutes of him just flying around the Enterprise. Oh, you've seen it from that angle, sir. But what about this angle?
Yeah.
And they do it again. And I think like Kirk, like must be
All
good
I
at
do is
60
I'm
minutes.
just going to point there. There you go. You can see it from that
Yeah,
angle.
I could. Kirk, if I was Kirk, I'd be like, God, I must be getting a bit bored of it now.
Well, funnily enough, Kieran's just put on the chat that even YouTube disagrees with you, Sean.
YouTube's wrong.
So, funnily enough, as we've been discussing, I'm doing the Star Trek films Throwback Thursdays, and I'm currently working through motion picture. And pretty much everything you've just said there, I've actually got in my review as a complaint.
Oh, sorry, am I ruining it?
No, not at all. No one's even watching this, so it doesn't really matter. But it takes 40 minutes just for the Enterprise to come out of dry dock, and I just think that whole
it's funny you said that because when we were watching it last night, and they do start to depart dry dock, I quickly had a look, and I think it was like 35 minutes.
Yeah,
and I said to my partner, I was like, "Oh, the Enterprise is actually in motion. This is how the film's going to be."
the Enterprise motion picture.
Yeah, and then there's the whole thing of like
the engines.
Commander Decker's like, "Oh no, listen, we've got no time. We've got to go. We've got to go now." It's just hilarious. And then what really took the biscuit was when they finally like penetrate the cloud, and then they see Vija. Why does that need 15 minutes of them just flying around it?
It's I mean, I'm going to come to. I'll have my say on motion picture when I get to it in my list.
What do you mean? Is it not now for you?
No, it's not. What? It's nowhere near my number 13. This is how our lists are going to be so different. But I think you make a good point. I think, and this is something else that I put in my review, that it's a very divisive film, and it's not a crowd pleaser by any stretch of the imagination. And I think for you, as a big Trek fan, and to not like it that much, and for you to say that you feel it's the worst one, I think that's really telling, because it's obviously I view it a different way to you, and many people would do. But
I mean, there's things about it I like. I mean, the thing with the lingering shots is it's just funny. I was saying last night that, can you imagine you were watching the 66 TOS series, and then this film came out in 79. If you was a massive fan, it would be the best thing ever made. You know, all the lingering shots and stuff would have been like pure joy back then.
Yeah,
but it's just get over it. You know, after 5 minutes, get on with it.
Do you think you're watching it to today's standards? So you're seeing it through. Obviously, you are seeing it through 2024 eyes, because that's where we are. But are you kind of seeing it subjectively as a film that, if you're comparing it to, say, like Picard season 3 and all the good special effects and all of that, and the later Star Trek films, would you possibly view something like motion picture as hard to see in that vein because of how it's filmed?
Well, the effects and things are great, and actually for the time I thought really good. I just thought some of the choices they made in the filmmaking. I think when was 2001 Space Odyssey made? Quite a few years.
68, 69.
I mean, I just wondered, if that was an influence or things around that time, because it's such a visual experience compared to you've got a 3-act structure normally in a film, and you've got these lines and meant to be a tight script. You wouldn't have a film nowadays where they just stand around gulping at the Enterprise for 10 minutes. It just won't happen.
No.
And I was saying, if you cut all those things out, it'll probably be the length of an episode, and probably be a good episode.
And this is a lot of stuff that I touched on my TT, that the script was taken from the original pilot episode of Phase 2 with it in thy image. It's very similar to a TOS episode called The Changeling. So you can tell that the groundwork of it was an episode.
Yeah. What's the difference between, because you asked me what version I was watching last night. I don't even know.
There's different versions of the film. Say, like, you've got Blade Runner, where there's different versions of Blade Runner. So you've got your theatrical release, and then you've got your TV edits, and then you've got director's cut. So motion picture has just been released in 2022. Actually, it was released on Blu-ray and 4K, and it was the director's edition. So Robert Wise did his director's cut in 2001 for DVD, where they just cleaned up an awful lot of the shots. They took out some of the original effects that didn't quite work and replaced them with CGI. Not like with Star Wars. I mean, it wasn't gimmicky or
was it subtle then, was it?
Very subtle, but it just cleaned the whole thing up. So there's different versions of it. So the director's edition has slightly different scenes, or scenes cut down, or some scenes extended. So for me, it's the definitive version because it's the 4K version.
Do you know the version we need? It's the Sean version, where I cut out all the unnecessary lingering about, and you get a 47-minute long movie where just the things that happen.
Yeah. You want a 90-minute movie, don't you? So
well, do you know what? It's just ridiculous. I mean, even at the end, I was laughing, right? Because, and I want you to put this as a complaint in your TT.
Okay, I'll write this down.
Please do. So they've saved the Earth, right? And there's probably 9 billion people down there freaking out because they're just about to be killed without explaining what's gone on, or explaining why 2 people are dead. You know, it just list them as missing.
Yeah, so I thought that.
They've got families and people that are wondering where they are, and instead of going in for a debrief, Kurt goes, just go on that way. Let's go for a ride.
That way.
No explanation. Yeah, that way. No, you need to come in. You need to debrief. You need to talk us through what's gone on.
Yeah. So I'll get to my bits on motion picture in a bit, but I'm going to move us on to my number 13. And I think you might know what I'm going to choose, but I'm going to go for Star Trek Into Darkness. I absolutely hate that film. Reasons being is that it's just flashy CGI, action-packed, this scene to that scene, to that scene, to that scene. There's very little character development. I know you don't probably need a lot of it because we already know the characters, but they're younger. So you need to have some development. They're in a different timeline, so they can be different to what we know. But there's just no substance to the film. It's literally, Wrath of Khan was good and popular. Let's try that again. And Benedict Cumberbatch is such a good actor, but he's not good enough to be able to pull off Khan. Not that he pulls him off or anything, but you know what I mean.
Okay.
A little bit of a joke there that went over your head.
But you know, I just ignored it. But, everything you said at the beginning, it was interesting because it's at the exact opposite end of the spectrum to motion picture. So the reasons I didn't like motion picture, you know, because it's so slow and boring. Sorry, but Into Darkness is the complete opposite. Where, like you say, it's a bit like Rise of Skywalker almost, where it's just bang, 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 bang. It's
lazy filmmaking, in my opinion. It's taking something that they think that people love. Oh yeah, Wrath of Khan was popular and it's the most successful in terms of its critical response. So let's try that again. Cumberbatch was not. It was so badly cast. They threw things in there for the sake of throwing things in there. It's all style and no substance. And I just feel that just because it looks flashy and the special effects are top notch and they've thrown money at it, as you know, you're getting with blockbusters today, that doesn't always kind of ring true. But I just found Into Darkness to be such a soulless, kind of effortless film in a way. I'm probably going to get slated for my opinion on this, but I honestly think it is the worst Trek film.
Oh, I'm going to slate you. So I will my counters I'll mention later when it comes
when you come on to when it comes up on your list.
It's probably a good way of doing it, isn't it?
It just makes me feel that the writing from when you had Star Trek 2009 and you've established new timeline and then you're into Darkness, you could have gone and done anything. But what they did do was they just used what happened before and brought it all forward and just did it in a really, really poor way. But it's just lazy filmmaking. It's lazy writing.
Yeah, massive missed opportunity for sure. There's a lot of problems there.
Such an expansive universe to kind of play upon. You've got these characters that everybody knows, and you can just take them out on adventures now. They should have been out exploring and coming up against weird and wonderful things like we saw in Next Generation or TOS,
or even the following film. You know, Beyond. That was a different thing. But we've talked about it many times on the channel now. Star Trek should be about going forwards and new discoveries, and when they go back to the well for these same old stories, it's pretty second big budget film now. So I'll give you that. You know, it's got a lot of things wrong with it.
I think is the reason why I've got it as the bottom one is purely because it's, for me, doesn't feel like Star Trek. They try to flip the whole Kirk and Spock thing at the end, where at the end of this one Kirk dies and then bring him back to life with an advanced tribble.
Or Khan's super blood.
Yeah, it's just stupid. So anyway, so let's move on to number 12. So what have you got for me?
I have got Star Trek Nemesis as my number 12.
Ooh,
That surprised
okay.
you. That surprised you.
That has surprised me.
The reasons for that are, and obviously we're 20 odd years removed from it now, and I've had a lot of time to mull over. I used to like it a lot more because, as we talked about at the beginning, I love The Next Generation. So it being a Next Generation film should, in theory, push it right up there for me. But I love Generations, love First Contact. I really liked Insurrection as well. And then Nemesis come along, and what a diving quality that was. So my problems with it are the actual quality of the film itself is really poor, I think. So they've got this chap called Stuart Baird directing, who's known as a cinematographer. But
editor.
Was it editor? Sorry.
Yeah, he edited Superman 1 and 2 and the Lethal Weapon films.
Well, that explains it then, because I was about to say, how can a cinematographer make a film that looks so bad? Because it's so dark.
It is dark.
And sometimes when people say, "Oh, it's a dark film," I'm not talking about the themes or the blood or it. It's just so dark. I can't actually make out the detail what's going on sometimes. If you put Insurrection up side by side with it, Insurrection looks 10 times better than what Nemesis does. And mix that in with the CGI smash up at the end and just killing Data off, needlessly.
Do you know why it was so dark? Well, one of the reasons why they filmed it so dark, why the lighting was so down, was because of the aging cast. And they're trying to, especially with Data, with Brent Spiner, it was like in his 50s. So it was hard. I mean, that's the other reason why they killed Data off, was because he was aging out of the role and he couldn't really keep coming back to play him. So although he did do in Picard, and they found a way around that, which was quite funny, but it was stupid at the same time.
But I think they realised they made a mistake. It was just, it was wrong, and just the reason it's so far down the list on top of everything else is at the end, this is their last outing. I think they all knew that at the time. Did they know that at the time?
There was rumours that if it had done well, that they were going to try and merge TNG, Voyager, and DS9 as a film to finish it all off with. But
the problem was it ended on such a downer. I mean, the biggest downer of any Star Trek film, because they're all crying, and it's not. I think they were trying to make it off as a bittersweet ending, and it just wasn't. It's just sad. And then that was the end, and they flew off forever. And I thought, okay, that's it then. Data's dead. Bye. If they'd stopped, if like Insurrection had been the last film, I'd think of the films in a much more positive light than I do.
I think if Insurrection had been the last film, I think it would have been horrible for that one to have ended on Insurrection. I think would have been poor.
Yeah,
but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it's almost like you'd be looking at it saying, "Oh, what a missed opportunity!" You know, like Spider-Man 4 that never got made. You'd be saying, "Wow, what would it have been?" But this is what it would have been. We live in the universe where they made that film, and it's rubbish. So.
Okay, so my number 12 is this will probably surprise you. It might annoy you actually, but my number 12 is Insurrection. Reasons being, it's mainly because of firstly, I find the CGI and the special effects in Insurrection pretty poor. So the same thing happened with Insurrection that happened with Star Trek 5, where ILM were tipped to do it, and then their workloads were just too big. They had too much else on, so they had to allow another effects company to come in and do it. And I find that the effects in Insurrection they're too computer generated. It's too obvious. But my biggest problem with it is that there have been episodes of TNG, and you'll probably know where I'm going with this, but there are episodes of TNG where certain things happened and those elements kind of got their way into Insurrection. And Picard's character is kind of 180. So you've got Who Watches the Watchers, where they've got that proto-Vulcan society on the planet where they're watching them with the hidden observation in the rocks, and that's very similar to what they have in Insurrection. So it's kind of, I think you can argue there that is the Federation's way of watching society. So that's what they are
ripping off their own episodes, definitely.
Yeah. So I mean, sometimes you can do that, but it's kind of establishing that that's what they do. They've done that before, so that's what we're going to carry on doing. But there's the episode Journey's End, where you've got the Native American tribe that kind of migrated out. to this planet which is going to become a Cardassian ruled world, and they don't want to leave. They've been
is
there
that
for
the
generations.
one with Paulie from Goodfellas?
No, that one is Homewood, where because he's Worf's brother, because that's when the planet's going to be destroyed, and they move him onto the holodeck, don't they? And the guy realizes that.
I mean, that's the reason.
That's a great episode.
But that also comes into play. That is also an episode then that has been ripped off, because that is exactly what happens in Insurrection. There's a holodeck, isn't there? And they're going to move him on to that. So, I thought that before when I've watched that episode. But
Picard's character does a complete 180 from what he does in Journey's End. So in Journey's End, he's following his orders, and these aren't indigenous people to the planet, so why should they stay there? And Patrick Stewart actually said that if it had been him, he'd have made the Baku leave. Come on, it's not your planet. You have no right over
because
it,
they're not
kind of thing.
indigenous, are they?
No, so. But it just does a complete 180. It goes back to being action Picard, whereas, which he was in First Contact. But it's everything he stood for in The Next Generation in those previous episodes that it almost undermines it. And that's one thing that I really, really does get to me on that one. And the other one is Kieran's just pointed it out as well, actually, on the chat, that the Spectrum ZX joystick that...
Let's get these bastards.
Yeah, I'm through and running from these bastards.
It's funny because that was the first time I watched Star Trek at the pictures, and I remember when he said that line, everyone in the picture went, "Ooh!" Is
that the first Trek film you saw in cinema?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I didn't get. I think it was
I think it was Star Trek 5. First one I saw in cinema.
Oh, you're a lot older than me, so.
Not a lot more older than you.
Quite a bit.
So yeah, Insurrection. To me, it feels more like a two-parter Next Generation episode.
And I'll give you that. And a bit like what you were just saying, where the Trek that most fans like is the Trek where they sit down and discuss it and go through it diplomatically, but you can't make that into a cool film, can you? So
no.
There's, I know we'd like to talk about Red Letter Media a lot on here, but he does make a good point where you've got movie Picard and show Picard, and you almost, in a way, sometimes have to divorce the two, like the two separate things, because they're not quite the same characters. I mean, lock and load and all that. That would never have happened in the show, would it?
It wouldn't. Of course, it wouldn't. They wouldn't speak like that. And I think because I uploaded that 1 minute short on the channel, the 5 facts about Insurrection. I've done it for all of the films except for the Kelvin ones. But Jonathan Frakes wanted to bring back John Delancey as Q. And it would have been interesting to see how Q would have fit into that. So even if that story would have been the same in a way. But it'd been interesting to see Q. I'm a bit surprised that Q never came back to the films.
So I suppose it's how do you? I don't know. How do you even get Q in a film? Because you're skewing the stakes all over the place, aren't you, with it? But I think Insurrection probably loses a lot of points because they've got that dreadful scene in it where Picard's dancing around his little flat,
his little rumba,
and he, my neck's looking. I wish that happened to me.
Yeah, if I do that, I'm probably going, my neck, my neck.
You can't dance around anymore, can you?
No, I can barely walk.
You need a good stint on that planet.
Yeah. Just to get me spine back to shape. Right then, so what is your number 11?
My number 11 is Final Frontier.
Snap. That's my number 11 as well.
So
we finally agree on something.
We do. I mean, I don't think it's a great film. I think there's a lot of problems with it, but the reason it's not further down the list, and we've both talked about it before, is it's probably the best film for the interactions between the trio, Spock,
the trifecta, yeah.
The trifecta, yeah. So Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. That it's their best film together. The chemistry and everything, the banter, it's all there, which you don't always get in the other films.
No.
One of them, because Spock's dead.
That's the best line in the film, though. God, I liked him before he died.
And it was like watching the first one last night. There's no bants because Spock's decided he wants to be pure logic. That was the one thing I liked about the film. Actually, they had a good theme in there about Spock's journey being a parallel with Vijay's, but it's still dead last.
Finding their place in the universe and blah blah blah.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
That was all right.
I mean, I've done a lot of research on Final Frontier for the TTs and for my 1 minute short, and the finished film is nothing like what the shooting script actually had. So the shooting script was being changed because Paramount kept pulling money. They delayed the start of the film, so ILM could no longer commit to doing the special effects, and it's really telling because the effects in the Final Frontier it's like going from Superman 4 from Superman 1. Do you know? Yeah. It's just awful. But for me, like you say, the trifecta, it's the best interaction between the three. The bond between the three is kind of played upon the most.
Yeah, it is.
But I would have been interested to see if William Shatner was ever allowed to do a director's cut, because the ending would have been completely different. A load of rock monsters chasing him and stuff like that. I mean, it might have been crap. But I'm all for release the Shatner cut. Hashtag release the Shatner cut.
Release the Shat.
Release the Shat, yeah.
But you know what? The reason it's so far down the list for me, right? I've seen it a bunch of times and I've enjoyed it. And I remember things about it like Spock's brother and why does God need a starship?
That's the best line in any Star Trek.
It's
all the films and the series, that's the best line.
But apart from that, I cannot remember what the film's about. You know, if someone said, what Star Trek 5 about? I actually can't remember. There's a bunch of stuff that happened. I seem to remember that they lose control of the Enterprise, but I don't actually remember what the plot's supposed to be. And that's a problem.
It's when Shatner was looking at developing the script with Harve Bennett, it was more to do with the televangelists, you know, these kind of cult leaders, and you know they're trying to brainwash you into following their lead and stuff. But there was a script written prior to motion picture, prior to phase 2, called the God Thing by Gene Roddenberry. So a lot of the elements from that script were utilized by Shatner for Star Trek 5 because he felt it fit with what he wanted to do. So I think somewhere along the way he kind of lost his way a little bit, but had to allow him to direct the next film because otherwise he wouldn't have come back for Star Trek 4. There was something in that
I don't know. But what is genuinely, what is the film about? I mean, can you?
It's supposed to be about brotherhood.
But what's the plot of the film? Like in Star Trek 6, you could say Kirk and McCoy become Klingon prisoners and they have to prove their innocence. I can't sum up Star Trek 5 in any way because I cannot remember. It's
a bit of a mess, let's face it. I mean, I'm probably being a bit too protective of it, but it's the same. It's number 11 on my list, the same as it is for you. So I'm
almost talking it down. Yeah.
I mean, you're talking it down, I'm talking it up. So the thing about it is the score is brilliant. It's probably Jerry Goldsmith's best score out of all of the Star Trek films. Maybe First Contact's a little better. I think it's a better score than it is for motion picture. But there's a lot that goes on in that film, which, like, Scotty wouldn't just turn around and whack his head like that if he truly did know the shit by the back of his hand and all that. But that just wouldn't happen to Scotty unless he's had a skinful, which he probably had.
Yeah, it's quite possible.
But I mean, it's a massive missed opportunity. But I kind of get this sense from all the research I've been doing. I kind of get the sense that Shatner had a lot of that taken away from him. And Harve Bennett at that point was just so kind of tired with Star Trek that he just wasn't willing to fight the battle. And
I can imagine someone like Shatner just wearing you down as well, and just to the point, just like, you know what, whatever.
Yeah, it might have been a little bit.
You can picture that, can't you?
Yeah. Although George Takei did say that he didn't want to come back to play Sulu in that film because he didn't want to be directed by Shatner, but he did say that it was really pleasant to work for as the director. He actually really enjoyed his experience, and it was a shame the film turned out the way it did. And I think it just had a lot going against it, like the special effects, the split to the budget, just everything just seemed to go against it. And I think, do you know what? I would really love to see a Shat cut.
Right. Okay.
Release the Shat. Right. So you're number 10.
My number 10 is Star Trek Beyond.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think for me, it's because I like Star Trek films when they're on the ship. I've always liked Star Trek episodes when they're on the ship. The ship is where Star Trek is for me. So any episodes or films or whatever where it's on the planet or in a away mission, I just don't enjoy them as much.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
So when the ship, quite cheaply just, we're fed up with this one, kill it. And then they land on the planet. There was a cool moment with trying to get back on the saucer section, and then they escape because I think they're trying to get that. There's a thing they need, isn't there? There's
always a thing they need. Yeah.
There's a what's a bob.
A MacGuffin.
A MacGuffin. So there's a MacGuffin they need off the ship, but then it's all on the planet, and I don't know. It's okay. But
Fast and Furious in space. Well, on a planet.
One for the casuals.
100%. Yeah, I think it is one for the casuals. Yeah.
And
I'm going to come to my thoughts on Beyond very soon because I'm not that far away from Beyond in my list.
And it's just I haven't got a lot to say about it. And then the mission's over, and then they get an Enterprise that looks almost exactly the same.
Actually, I think I'm going to say this now. I think the Kelvin Enterprise is the worst looking Enterprise out of all of them. I think it's a terrible looking ship. It's just they tried to take the elements from the TOS Enterprise and the refit and sticking those big. Do you know that episode in TOS with the planet killer, the Doomsday machine? It looks like that is the nacelles. They just stuck two of those to the back of the ship. Yeah, you got it there, haven't you?
Where did I put it? Oh, wait, hang on.
So while Sean's away, I'm just gonna pretend that I'm talking and so there you go. That's what the nacelles look like on the back of that.
It's coming. Whoa!
A big spliff in space.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's us getting kicked off YouTube.
Soz YouTube.
I hate that version of the Enterprise, and that when the Enterprise, they blew it up at the start, they ripped it all up within the swarm. The Enterprise at that point wasn't really earned. Like in Star Trek 3, it was earned because it had a long history and it's been part of the canon for since the start of TOS. I know it looks different, but it's essentially supposed to be the same ship. But in Beyond, it's just the Enterprise is supposed to be a character in itself, and it's supposed to have weight to it. Whereas that was just done for flashiness.
Exactly, because in Star Trek 3, where it's like killing a character. What have I done? But like you say in Beyond, it's just for a laugh, basically. Just blew it up. Oh no, that's that shit gone then.
Whoops. Orcs.
Oh dear. Orcs.
It's not like you lost your keys.
So it's not objectively a bad film. It's an entertaining film, but for me, it's
a crowd pleasing popcorn.
It's a crowd pleaser. It's not something I would count as as a purist Star Trek movie. No. So for me, it's just there.
That's your number 10. So my number 10. So this is where I get my say on this film. Nemesis. And I can't really say that much different to what you said, to be honest. It is very dark. Tom Hardy had issues with the film himself. I think he was going through a bit of a rough time after it kind of flopped and almost killed off his career before it really got going and stuff. So there's just a lot of negativity around Nemesis as a whole. But Stuart Baird was, as we said, he was an editor. He not really been behind the camera. I think he did 2 films previously. I think one of them was Executive Decision, which isn't a great film, but it's got its fans, I guess. But as we said, he was more renowned for the editing Superman 1 and 2 with Dick Donner, and obviously the
did I
films.
understand right? He did this as like a favour or something. Well, there was
something
some deal.
Like
it's like a trade-off in a deal.
There was a deal, yeah. I mean, it's bullshit, really, because Jonathan Frakes could have directed again, but I think Paramount turned him down because of the failure of Insurrection. And Rick Berman actually went to Nicholas Meyer and asked him to direct, and Meyer accepted, provided he could rewrite the script, because he had big problems with the script. He said it was too much like Rafa Khan, so I'm pretty much going to be making the same film twice. I need to make changes. But the writer of the film had carte blanche over what was going to be in it, so he couldn't change the script. So Meyer just said, "Nah, I'm out. Find somebody else."
Oh man! So what could have been?
What could have been? But also, LeVar Burton was going to direct, and then Paramount executives turned around and said, "No, Stuart Baird's doing it because of another deal." It's kind of like a backhand deal, or
something's gone on.
Something's gone on, and he had problems with the cast because he didn't know enough about Trek. He didn't have enough knowledge of Next Generation or just the universe in itself. But there were cool. I genuinely think there's some good moments in the film. I do actually like the end battle in the Rift Basin's Rift or whatever it's called. I actually do quite like that. And Picard ramming the Enterprise into the Scimitar. I think they're really, really cool moments. But
they are, yeah. They're cool. And I like it when Data jumps across space to get to the ship. It's like
Princess Leia.
Yeah,
that was his. He did it before Princess Leia did.
But it's just but for every scene you got like that, you've got B4.
Oh yeah, the B4 stuff was stupid. And,
why? Why?
A lot of the.
It's like a big kid, isn't it?
Why? Constipated.
What's I looked all the time. Why?
I think.
Do you not understand?
No, I mean that's how I feel when I watch Nemesis sometimes. But I think that I've got good memories of seeing it in the cinema, and I'm hoping Kieran's still watching because it was when we saw the trailer for Bulletproof Monk, and when that title came up in the trailers, me and Kieran were in bits. We were literally just rolling on the floor laughing at how funny that title was, and that was before we saw Nemesis. But honestly, thought. Yeah, it was a missed opportunity as the last film of the TNG series. It was, yeah, I actually think it's a better film than Insurrection, but I think it's marginally better.
Oh, it's a massive misfire.
It is a massive misfire. They tried to do something more character based with Picard, but it was less action Picard in that one, other than the Dune buggy scene.
Yeah, because he's like an old man.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Well,
that's why the lighting was so down, because you couldn't see how old everybody was.
But do you know, it's so funny because there's just stuff in it, right? So Picard, when he gets on the bridge of the Scimitar, this is a warrior race, right? They are bred for war.
Why have we never seen the Remans before?
I don't know. I think it's been mentioned, but
Remus has always been, because that episode of TOS, what's it called? Terror. Oh, do you know? My mind's just gone to blank.
Balance of Terror.
Balance of Terror. That's it. And they bring up the star map of the neutral zone and the star bases on the neutral zone. And you can see Romulus and Remus kind of pictured there. So it was always Romulus and Remus, which is. Is that Roman god? It's Roman gods, isn't it? Romulus and Remus.
Yeah, and I think the insignia always had the bird of prey with the two planets in its talons. But what I was coming to say was, so they're a race bred for war. That's what he says. He says that Shinzon. But Picard, this old man in his 60s, gets on the bridge, right, and he doesn't even maneuver. It just pew, and kills one of them, and the other one shoots him, and Picard goes around this corner. And he kills another. I'm like, come off it, mate. I'm not having that.
No.
And then, and at the end, like Shinzon runs at him, and Picard slowly pulls this thing on, and he runs.
I've always wondered how he managed to do that. I mean, yeah,
it's bullshit.
It is bullshit.
And what else was there? I was going to say something else. There was another issue I had with it as well. But it's a
couple of cameos at the start that annoyed me, that with Guinan and Wesley. But all I want to ask you is, are they actually really there, or are they part of the holodeck program? Does it matter?
Oh, they must be there. You'd have thought so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Well, it'd be a really weird thing to do.
It was like Wesley was off with the Traveller, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Travelling with the Traveller.
That means a very different thing here in the UK than it does in America.
Yeah.
What's happened to Wesley? He's joined the Travellers.
He's got his caravan.
Yeah. But the other problem, I remember watching it in the cinema, and when things happen, as I do often when I'm watching films, and they say something, and I go, hang on, we've got intruders on deck 29. Okay. And they go down to deck 29, and then the guy jumps down the chute. I'm like, oh my God, he's like on the underbelly of the ship now, but he chases after it. But then there's this whole other, like...
Yeah, well, how does that work? Or is it just gravity?
But they fall onto something.
Yeah.
And then he kicks him, and the guy falls to his death, and you don't even see the bottom.
So that's Ron Perlman as well, isn't it? That's Hellboy.
Yeah. Well,
but the other thing is in First Contact... Picard states that there's 24 decks, and then later in First Contact, one of the security officers say that the Borg have taken over deck 26 to 11, so they don't even fucking know.
And then all of a sudden there's a deck 20. I'm sure it says deck 29.
Yeah, deck 29.
But why didn't there was so many opportunities for someone to say, why don't you just make it deck 2, right? And then it'd be so much more believable that someone will drop.
Yeah, top of the warp core or something.
Yeah,
wharf core.
But from what you saw, there must be like 80 decks.
Yeah, that's like in Star Trek 5. Do you know when they're flying up the lift shaft and it goes from deck 72 to 58 and 62 and 18 and then 71 again, and they get right to the top. It's like, how big's this ship and can they not count?
Well, at least it's not as bad as. Did you see that episode of Discovery where you saw inside the turbo shafts and it's just oh no!
What was going on with that? Just Discovery in general. What was going on with that?
Whoever thought up that scene didn't just need firing; they needed ripping around the parking lot, put on the knees, shot in head. Right? It's so bad.
Phaser.
Yeah, they needed phasing out. Right?
They needed phasing out. Right.
I've just spat all over at desk. I was that angry.
Right. So where are we up to now? Number 9. So what's your number 9? Number 9.
You're not going to like this. The Voyage Home.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
For similar reasons, as I said before, which is it's the one film that hasn't really got the Enterprise in it, and if you're a fan of the character, if you're more of a character person, then it's a great film.
Yeah,
and it is a great film. You know, if it's on TV, I'm there for it. I'm loving it. But it's another film where it's just an away mission, and I like Star Trek on the Federation ships. That's Star Trek to me. So it's not as enjoyable. I wouldn't pick it over a lot of other films just purely for that reason. And also,
I see what you mean. I see what you mean.
There's that, and also when Star Trek goes back in time to mix with,
you've had this rant before. That's great.
I have, and once every now and again is fine. You know, they did it 2 or 3 times in the original series, and it's oh god, they're back again, and it's never 17 summer. It's always now. It's always got to be now. What's he called? Double. What's he say to the guy?
Dumbass on you.
Double dumbass on you or not? I mean, that was the one good thing, but coming back, and I just think it's well trodden that is, and I grow old. I grow a bit bored of it pretty quickly.
I'm just waiting for Kieran's comment, because Kieran said the same thing to me. Yes, because he watched it on. Kieran's gone back and watching all the films like I've been doing. He said the same thing about the time travel. The exact.
What did he say? Oh, just fed up with it.
Yeah. It's just bullshit, pretty much. Just the bullshit device.
It depends really, because in TNG, when they did Times Arrow, when they went back to Mark Twain times, that was cool because that was a little bit different. It wasn't like it's just cheap, It's like saying, I can almost imagine the pitch. Just think Star Trek, right? But we haven't got to bother with all the sets and that. We'll just film it here in LA, and they'll love it.
Yeah, I know. But do you know the background behind the film that Eddie Murphy was supposed to play the Gillian character?
I heard that, yeah.
And because he didn't really feel like playing a scientist was right for him or something like that. He couldn't come to terms with Paramount. So he went off to do the Golden Child. And they changed the character to female, more of a love interest for Kirk. And by the end of the film, she just like kind of says, right, see you later, mate, I'm off. Kirk's left standing like, wow, that's what that feels like.
And I know what you was alluding to with my rant, and I'm going to have it now, which is the Earth's in great peril. Oh God, if only we had these whales, right? And then Spock out of nowhere says, "Oh God, you know what? We can just travel back in time anytime we like. I just haven't bothered before. Let's flip rants on a bit. Fuck everyone else who's got a right story after this, because best of both worlds. Oh God, the Borg are taking over. What about that trick? No one ever mentions it again. And it's rubbish. Really very convenient time travel on top of the problems we've already got with time travel. The only way I can sort of make it work in my mind is perhaps Spock is such a maths genius. It's only Spock who can do it. I could buy that, but
it's not really established that though, is it?
No, but why didn't you do it any other time? I mean, even in Star Trek, right? He has to build a machine that can. No, he does it. He travels in time by accident that time, actually, doesn't he?
Yeah, that ain't his fault. You can't blame me for that one.
No, he can't. Sorry, everybody.
He couldn't slingshot the song because it had gone supernova. So
yeah, but if he realised it was all cracking off and it was, oh shit, you know what? Damn, I'm too late. I know what I'll do. I'll go around sun. I'll go back and then drop the red ball then.
the red ball.
He's got like a red ball, hasn't he? He's got one of those like space hoppers.
Yeah.
And he has to take a bit of liquid. You'll never be able to watch that in the same way now, will you? There's
you fucking spoiled that for me now. Big giant space hopper just floating in. Yeah, great.
So yes, that's another problem I've got with the film.
Yeah. I think I tend to agree with where you're coming from with that one, but I'm going to jump to my number 9 now. Unless you've got anything else to say.
No.
I mean, you can say anything else later when I come to Star Trek 4, but my number 9 is Star Trek Beyond, purely because they tried hard to make it more Trek after Into Darkness. They tried to kind of make it feel like it was more episodic. The things that there's themes in it which they tried to play upon that they tried to do it. Well, not tried to do, but they did do in Wrath of Khan, where Kirk's kind of lost within himself. It's kind of like the opposite is what happened in Wrath of Khan, where he's gotten to an age in Wrath of Khan where he's kind of am I beyond, pun not intended, where I could be. Whereas in Star Trek Beyond, he's kind of lost. Like, is this right for me? Am I along the right path? And the whole kind of like adventure steers him onto being, you are on the right path, and this is what you're supposed to be. They tried to do a bit with Kirk. There's a little bit more character development on that. It's surface level, like the character development in motion picture. It's very surface level, but they tried. And I feel because I forget who directed it. Was it Justin Ling?
I can't remember.
I can't remember. I'm probably going to be slated for not knowing who directed it, but it was
not JJ then.
No, he only produced it. It was one of the guys who directed Fast and Furious, and you can tell because it was a very Fast and Furious type film. And I didn't quite get all the stuff with Idris Elba's character. Like, he was a human, then he became an alien because of this another bullshit device, and it's just what are you on about?
But then also contrast some of the things that we loved about the older movies, and then the climax of this film is they play Beastie Boys out across space.
I hated that. Honestly, I hated that.
They play Sabotage. I mean, even the first time, it was stretching it a bit to have it in a Star Trek film. But it was. I remember watching it going, "Oh, for fuck's sake!"
And I just didn't like the fact that the Enterprise is just a vehicle that they're on, and they just get rid of it. And I mean, if we've mentioned Star Trek 3 blowing up the Enterprise, has weight to it. I'll come on to that in a little bit more detail later with my thoughts. But also the Enterprise D, when that explodes and the saucer section crashes on Viridian 3, that's got a lot of weight to it as well.
Definitely,
it's done. It really as a fan of the series and a fan of the films and stuff, you're kind of watching at that moment, thinking, "My word, oh God." It's gripping. Whereas in Star Trek Beyond, that wasn't gripping. It was just shit all over the screen. I'm just like,
it was almost trailer bait. It was like almost just made for the trailer.
That was all in the trailer. We knew before we went into the film that the Enterprise was going to bite the dust, but I didn't expect it to happen so early in the film. It was that what kind of sets up the rest of the plot. So I mean, it's number 9 on my list and not further down because they made an attempt to make it more Star Trek at the same time as making it a crowd-pleasing popcorn film that can appeal to a wider audience. So they tried to put little bits in for everybody, and I don't mind it when they do that. But when they do it correctly, you could get something really, really good. But when they do it poorly, that's when you get Into Darkness.
I mean, by the end, I was wanting Idris Elba to put that device in the thing and kill everybody. I was rooting for it.
Why don't they just win? But
just
Red Letter Media, they when the Mr. Plinkett reviews, they kind of hit the nail on the head that it's always someone seeking revenge with a doomsday device. So. And it's all spurned out from Wrath of Khan, and they're trying to emulate what's been done before. If it isn't broken, don't fix it. But you're breaking it by continuing to do it. So
yeah. Apart from First Contact did it in a good way because there was an element of revenge, but just finding out the nature of the Borg and everything, that was a great film.
Yeah, and we'll come to that in a bit, as I'm sure. So moving on, let's move beyond. What's your number 8?
So number 8, I'm going to say we're getting into a part of the list now where I like these films, but they can't all be number 1. So they're not down there because I don't like them, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree. Same with mine.
Yeah. So my number 8 is Search for Spock.
Really? Oh, okay.
I like it, and I know you like it a lot more than I do. You even got your photo on the Klingon bridge, didn't you? With Christopher Lloyd.
Christopher Lloyd, it's down there somewhere, and the one with Shatner.
The Shats.
The Shats had the Shats that day.
Yeah. Just flat. I don't know. I always thought of it as just a lesser, not as great as the other films. It's a good film, I like a lot of it. The thing with the Klingons, but it doesn't stick out in my mind as what, I really fancy Search for Spock tonight. I don't think I've ever had that thought.
Oh, I have quite a few times. I definitely have.
But you love, because I think maybe you might be influenced by Back to the Future, and I think you.
Not really.
You love the Lloyd.
I do love Christopher Lloyd, but he's not the reason why I love Search for Spock. I'll tell you why I love Search for Spock in a bit, but we'll come to. I'll have my say on it later. I was just reading Kieran's comment saying he doesn't want to talk about that visit to Birmingham. That was a long day, waiting for ages for William Shatner.
That was a long day. Yeah, it was. It was. We've not been to any since, have we?
No, just for the benefit of anybody else who's going to watch this later on, Sean and I and my old brother Kieran went to a Star Trek convention in Birmingham for the 50th anniversary, and it was just a lot of waiting around, and there wasn't a lot there, was there? It was just very...
No.
It was
barren.
what
I have got... hang on. Oh, bear with me. Can I get it? Can I get to it? This is what a lot of these live streams are going to be, me reaching around the room for stuff.
You need to get a smaller room.
This is my goodie bag from that day.
Oh, you still got your goodie bag?
Still got my goodie bag.
Has it got Star Trek Beyond on the bag?
No, unfortunately not. It's
an ad for Star Trek Beyond. Oh, right, okay.
So I've got it to hand because you can probably see I've just moved house and everything's everywhere, but this is my geek room. So what have I got here? Okay. There is the picture.
Back to the films in a bit. Oh yeah, there you go. You and the
me and the Shats on the bridge. That's the real bridge in space. They beamed you up for it.
They beamed you up. Yeah, you look like you've just been beamed up.
I mean, that's he's just about to hand over the con to me there. I'm just about to take over.
Is that why he looks nervous?
Yeah. What else have I got here? I got an autograph from Jeffrey Combs.
Jeffrey Combs, yeah. Best film he was in was The Frighteners when he played the FBI agent. That one's for you, Kieran.
What else have I got here? I should have some more. Oh, hang on. There's me. I got promoted there to captain. I'm on the Enterprise D bridge there.
Yeah, you went a bit further forward in time there, didn't you?
I did, yeah, because I'm a Vulcan, you see, so I live a bit longer.
Slingshot around that sun.
Yeah. And I got the magazine from the day, and I think the idea was you went to get autographs. So I've got one from Marina Sirtis. Yeah, here we go.
Oh, yeah, didn't you?
She was lovely, she was really nice.
Didn't you get one from Beverly
Crusher? Gates McFadden.
McFadden, yeah.
And you know what? That was so awkward because it was the first time I'd met a famous person to speak to, and I remember queuing up to meet her, and I thought, oh my god, it's like Beverly Crusher. And she went to sign it, and she says, "Who's it to?" I says, "Oh, I'm Sean." And I thought desperately, you do, don't you, when you go to these things? I've got to say something cool. So I said, "Are you having a good weekend?" And she went,
"This is like you're getting paid a lot for this, but I'm bored as fuck."
And she looked at me. She went, "Yeah, are you?" I went, "Yeah." And she started going back to me, and I left. And I thought, "What was that?"
Yeah, you panicked, didn't you? Oh,
Mate, that day was great because I remember we're going way off tangent. Sorry, but
yeah, we'll come back to the films in a minute.
we'll come back. I'm sure if you like Star Trek, you're gonna love this stuff, aren't you? But when I because basically at the convention, as you normally get, there was quite a lot of Star Trek actors there who signing things, and people like Marina and.
Marina, first name basis now.
Yeah, well, we had a good chat. What I will say about her, right? She made everyone feel special. Like, she made the effort to because she could tell.
Unlike William Shatner,
he didn't turn up. Oh no, not Shatner. I'm thinking
no, that was Jonathan Frakes didn't turn up. You were livid about that.
I was really excited to meet Frakesy. Then he didn't turn up.
But Shatner didn't say anything. He's just sat on his stool. You walk up to him, he just nods at you. You're not allowed to touch him. You've got to stand like a foot away from him, have your photo, and piss off. You know,
I mean, he's had
50 quid that cost.
He's had 50 years of this shit. He's probably
but you would have thought that he'd been a bit more. He's earning a lot of money out of that miserable bastard.
But what was funny were so I was milling about, and they got a couple of guys from Enterprise, which is the bastard stepchild of all the shows, right? And they just sat there. It was the guy who plays. Is Connor Trinneer the actor's name or because he plays Trip, I think, right?
Yeah, I remember him being there. Yeah,
and the English guy who was maybe the doctor,
Dominic Keating.
Was it? No, was it? He wasn't a doctor. It was a security guy. Whatever.
Security guy. Yeah.
But they were there, right? And they got their arms crossed and everything because they were just dead bored because nobody was coming for an autograph. They were just like normal random people there, and I went to them to get an autograph out of pity because I thought, God, these guys look bored, and I enjoyed the show. I thought, you know what, I'm going to go and tell them, and they'll be grateful that a fans made their way across. Because what had happened was Greg Grunberg had just opened up next. He's not really even in Star Trek, and his queue was massive straight away.
Oh yeah, because he's JJ's mate, isn't he?
Yeah, but they sat there, and I remember them looking at each other like, for fuck's sake. So I went and said, "Oh, all right, guys, I'll get an autograph off you." It was only 15 quid, so I thought bargain. Yeah. And I love the show, and I'm trying to start up a conversation, and it's just like, "Yeah, thanks." And I thought,
they just didn't want to be there.
Well, don't be there then. No one's making you come. And I thought I spent 15 quid just for your benefit. I didn't even want the autograph, really. I just came over to talk to you because I felt sorry for you, and they just fucked me off basically.
Prick. So search for Spock.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, but anyway, the search for the podcast.
Search for Spock, number 8 for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was about that.
Do you also think Search for Spock? I'm just jumping straight back into this, but do you also think Search for Spock's your number 8 because it's followed Rafa Khan, and it's a tough act to follow for any film, really?
No, I don't think of it like that. I just don't think it's in the grand scheme of all the movies. It's number 8. That's just how it is for me. It's not the worst. It's not the best. It's middle of the pack.
Yeah.
A lot of good things I like about it. Didn't feel strongly enough about it to put in the eye.
Right. So my number 8 is the motion picture.
Okay.
So, the reason being is that obviously I watched the director's cut on Blu-ray last Saturday, and I think, as I said earlier, the special effects that they've added back into it, they feel like they belong there, and it's not gimmicky like with George Lucas did with Star Wars and adding new bits in just for the sake of it. But I think, as I allude to in my review of the film, which is coming up soon, that there's a lot to love in that film because it establishes a lot of things to come, such little things like the vertical warp core, to big things like the look of the Klingons and how the Klingons are like a bit more warlike.
It set a really good tone. All the bits that weren't boring were great. That's what I'll say. But there's not enough of them.
But I did fall asleep watching it, so
it is like that. That is a good film.
Thanks, Kieran. Yeah, it is. Excuse me, but I just feel that when you're watching it, it's not a very character-based film. It's very, any character development's quite surface level. But for Kirk's arc kind of gets completed about halfway through. So he's been moved up to Admiral. He wants to command the Enterprise, comes back. He's got like the wonder in his eyes of when he sees, it's like being reunited with a lost love. He's given Decker the old heave ho. I'm having it. I'm driving. He's decked him. I'm driving. You're sitting in the passenger seat, dickhead.
And he's just like, listen, Decker, get over it.
Yeah. Stop competing with me, Decker.
I mean, that's, to say he's meant to be like the best captain ever, right? If a manager spoke to me like that at work, I'd go mental. That is not good leadership, is it? To say, look, I'm the boss, piss off. Right?
But what makes me laugh in that film is they must have beamed McCoy up from a 1970s disco. So when he introduced him to film, he's just like the medallion and his chest out, and it's like, why is everything we don't understand always called a thing?
And I might be stepping on the toes of your TT here, but we were watching it last night, right? And there's a scene happening, and all of a sudden this alarm goes off. They run into the transporter room, and this transporter's gone wrong, and there's this horrible accident, and these people are transported into these horrible creatures.
Yeah,
and then they just die. And then it's never mentioned again. And it's just a weird thing that happens in the middle of the film for like no reason. I think
there's a lot that happens in the film that happens for no reason. Like that whole subplot of the engines not working and Spock having to. It's almost like to introduce Spock to prove his worth, that they needed him and things like that. But they didn't need to do that because it's Spock. We know what. We know who Spock is.
But at this point, Scotty's meant to be the competent engineer who fixes those.
The miracle worker, apparently. So.
Yeah. So it's just a bit, and the whole wormhole thing, just like we were laughing. It's a joke.
It is a bit daft. It is completely unnecessary, and it's a whole part of the film that needed to, in my opinion, it should have been cut out. They should have just because why would you send a ship that isn't fully powered up, have got engine issues, it's brand new in terms of its refit, and no one knows what did this button do? Yeah, just send them off to save all of humanity. But where are all the other ships? Surely
it's like it's like London coming under attack, right? And then they phone like one copper, say you are the only copper in London. You've got to come and defend us from these terrorists or something. All the other coppers, they're up Newcastle for some reason.
They're on the stag do.
They are. It's ridiculous. I mean, like, I think that's a good analogy because, like, Earth is like the London of. If the UK is the Federation, it's the centerpiece. You've got all these important worlds like Vulcan and that, but the Earth is the most important one. To say there's one ship in dry dock that's the only one around is absolute bollocks. Don't buy that for 2 seconds.
So I don't know if you can see the comments, but Kieran,
I can't see any comments.
I can't believe your missus sat through that last night, Sean. You've got to watch Barbie with her now to make up for it.
Hey, let me tell you something, Kieran. Right. It worked a treat. Anne likes films that are a bit slower and stuff, and she struggles to commit to films anyway because they're quite long. But I said, "Oh, you know what? You'll really like Star Trek because it's quite slow and easy going." So we started with the original series, and it's just easy viewing, and she's into it. She's enjoying it. I think she disliked the movie because she was falling asleep last night. I was on my phone. And I thought, this is a step back. This is actually a step back.
Just wait till she gets to Rafa Khan.
I did promise her, so hang on. But now we've got to go back to the series, and we're not far off starting season 3, so I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, season 3's nowhere near as good as season 2, in my opinion. Some good episodes, but it's very much a downgrade in quality of the story, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Spock's brain.
The last episode where Kirk swaps bodies with the deranged woman. What's it called? I can't remember what the episode's called.
But we're coming towards the end of season 2, and it's already declining quickly in quality. Because we're not long watched the episode where they go to a world and it's full of gangsters.
Oh, yeah, a piece of the action. I love that episode. I think it's great.
It's ridiculous.
It is, but did you know Tarantino, when he was looking at doing a Star Trek film, he was going to use that episode and do a Star Trek film, an R-rated Star Trek film based around that planet with all the gangsters and stuff. I would have thought that'd have been brilliant.
Yeah, and we watched what was the episode we watched the other night? It was just completely bonkers. It was like nothing happened and everything happened at the same time. Let me find the episode, but there was just like some random woman knocking about. Oh God, that was it. Where a private little war. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So they go down to the surface, right? And there's these guys in blonde wigs and these guys in black wigs. And Klingons have been giving the guys in the black wigs some weapons and showing them how to build like guns. and Kirk's down there, and there's a witch for some reason, and things happen, and then they go back, and it's just like, what the hell did I just watch?
Yeah.
It's just bizarre.
Some of it is quite, it's a little bit. You've got to remember what the time that it was written. So there was a lot of LSD knocking about back then.
Yeah. It's just ridiculous, silly
stuff. I think we've done the motion picture to death now. I think.
Let's move on.
So your number 7 is
Into Darkness.
Oh, right. Okay. So it's a mid-level film for you.
Yeah, it is, because there's a lot wrong with it. Yeah, but there's a lot I like about it. What I do like about it is, as badly miscast as he is, I like Benedict Cumberbatch.
I like him as an actor. Yeah,
and the way they could have improved this film so many levels by just saying he was one of Khan's lieutenants. It didn't have to be Khan. If he was just a different character, that would have been so much better. Because in and of itself, it's a good performance, I think, and I really like it. But what I do really like is, so did you want to say something?
No.
I like the Vengeance, the other ship, and I like that Robocop.
It's a cool looking ship.
It's a cool looking ship.
It's got Robocop in it.
It's got Robocop, and I love that bit where he goes, "Oh shit," you talk to him. And it's
just like, oh shit. Yeah.
But I think one of the best moments out of any Star Trek film is when the Enterprise is zooming away, warping away, and they've got like this transwarp thing, and they make that.
It just comes up behind it. Yeah, that does look cool.
Did we watch that together?
Went to cinema to see that. Yeah, on my birthday, went to see that.
Oh, well, happy birthday for that day.
I can't remember what year ago. When was it? 2012? 2011.
Yeah. Oh my god, that was a long time ago. But the noise it made, and it's coming. Yeah. And then it knocks the Enterprise out of warp, and they're not back in normal space. That is probably one of the best sequences I can think of in any Star Trek film. I thought it was a fantastic sequence. Either side of that sequence, questionable.
Okay.
There's a lot of issues, but that sort of 10 seconds in itself lifts it a few places for me.
Okay, I mean, it is quite a cool little sequence. It's for me, it doesn't elevate the film for me at all. There is a little tidbit in there where R2D2 gets sucked out into space.
Right.
Because, and we know what. I just think the whole film's garbage. I'm sorry to just rain on your parade with that one. Sorry.
No, there is a lot wrong with it. Maybe in hindsight, I ought to have rated it lower, but I just when I think of the film, I think of that sequence, and it's. I think what helps it is it's a very, very good, clear 4K picture as well in terms of actual quality.
It's a good looking quality. Film.
It's a very good looking film.
I think all 3 of those Kelvin films are good looking films.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, because when I was buying my TV and stuff, I was looking into 4K, and a lot of people seem to reference this film in particular to say it's a really good showcase film to show how good your TV can be, because it's such a well-made, crisp picture and everything. So just on a technical basis, it's a good film, and on the list there as well.
I mean, one of the biggest problems I've got with the film, other than Khan and treading old ground and not doing it justice whatsoever, and Spock going off all emotional and stuff, because he did that in the last film, is the trans beaming. I know they did it in 2009, and that I had issues with it in that film, but they did it in a bigger way in this one, where you can just beam from Earth to Kronos. But during that chase sequence, when they're in Klingon space, it takes them like no time at all to get back to the Earth solar system, whereas it would have taken them weeks in TOS or TNG or...
even the motion picture, when apparently they were the only ship around.
It would have taken them weeks just to fire up the engines. But do you know what I mean? There's just no logic in Into Darkness. It's just... I'm getting on my own nerves calling it Into Darkness, to be honest.
Yeah.
I just feel there's no logic to that film whatsoever. And it's... is it... who wrote it? Was it Michael Orsi and... he who I can't name because he's in charge of Star Trek now, and he's everything I hate about Star Trek.
There's also the guy
Alex Kurtzman,
Lindelof,
Damon Lindelof.
He was involved because he came out and apologised for that scene of
Robert Orsi. Sorry,
what's her face who stripped down to a bikini.
Yeah, Carol Marcus. Yeah.
And they apologised for the unnecessary.
There was pointless. What was? Yeah, she just stripped down in front of Kirk, and then, oh no, turn around. I'm just going to take my clothes off. What? It was. Yeah, it was daft. That there was no need.
It was silly. I mean, I didn't complain at the time, obviously, but yeah, in hindsight, yeah, it was a poor move.
Yeah. Okie dokie. So my number 7, if hold on to your hats, is Generations.
What?
Purely because I don't think it's a bad film in the slightest. I remember going to see it in cinema, but I remember feeling really deflated after I'd been to see it because the Next Generation had just finished and come out the same year that the series had ended, and the final episode for the Next Generation will always go down as probably the best finale of all Star Trek, but it's probably the best. Yeah. It's up there with Best of Both Worlds and Doomsday Machine and Balance of Terror as one of the best episodes, and it ended the Next Generation in a really, really satisfying way. And then you get that unsatisfying kind of Kirk's in it at the start, and then I just remember him being in the cinema, sat there thinking, "When's Kirk coming back?" He's not in it again till the end, and then instead of dying on the bridge, he dies under the bridge. Yeah. So it was supposed to be the original script had Kirk taking command of the battle bridge, and the Enterprise D was going to explode again. But Paramount executives had a whole long list of things that they needed to have in the film, or things that they couldn't put in the film. So they needed less Kirk because I wanted it to be a big thing at the end when he's fighting. I was going to call him Sauron, but it's not Sauron. Sorry.
Wow. No, that's the crossover we need.
Kirk just punching a big flaming eye.
Yeah, Kirk's got the ring. My precious. Do the voice,
My precious. Oh, you mean the Gollum voice?
Yeah.
I thought you meant do the Shatner voice.
No, do the Colin voice.
You're doing the Gollum voice.
That's Colin's normal voice, everybody. By the way, this is the voice he puts on for the show.
Just for the show. I thought the destruction of the Enterprise D was a really cool scene. Although they had to reuse the footage of the Klingon bird of prey exploding.
Which is one of those decisions I think they made because obviously they were maybe 2 or 3 years removed, so they probably thought, well, most people won't remember. But when you watch them in sequence now, the films, it's literally like you say, shot for shot, the same explosion.
It's the same. It's exactly the same. The only difference is that the color variant is slightly different, and that's it. But I mean, Kirk. Yeah, I was a bit disappointed with his lack of. I always wanted to see the Enterprise A and the Enterprise D in the same shot together, and technically, you got that in Star Trek Picard when the Enterprise D is kind of going flying past.
But it's not quite what we wanted.
It's not what I wanted. I mean, I want the Enterprise A to be used in Star Trek Picard season 3, but I can't have it all. But I just felt that there was a bit of a cheapening of with Generations because there was a lot of good in it, but it felt like a long episode, as we said about Insurrection.
And there's some real logic gaps as well because Picard's a smart fellow, isn't he? He's a clever guy.
Picard isn't.
No. So when Guinan, who's somehow there, I'm just thinking of me as an echo.
It's like being inside Joy.
God. Yeah. And just you can go any place, anytime. I know. I'll go back to when I was just nearly killed and I could possibly overthrow him. But
he could have just gone back to when he was a lot more vulnerable.
Well, what he could have done was he could have it'd have made for a poor film because it had just ended abruptly. But it said, Guinan, send me back to the Enterprise 2 days ago when Soren was there, and I'll arrest him and we'll stop all this from happening. And then the film's over.
Yeah. And they kind of wrote themselves into a corner with the Nexus stuff. I mean, it's it's like it's with time travel, isn't it? You where can you go with it? And
it's silly because Picard snaps out of it almost straight away. It's not Christmas. What's going on? But Kirk, he's not having it. It's something burning. He's having to chase him around. It's like I could understand if he'd been there for years, but he just turned up too. So he should just be. He should be going. What the hell? I've just been sucked out to space, and now I'm here.
just doesn't really make much sense. There's, the logic in it all is
silliness.
But there was a fact that you didn't quite know about, wasn't there? With the Enterprise B is the Excelsior model from Star Trek 3 and Star Trek 6, and they just put the bits on the hull at the front so that they could essentially just put the damage on it and not having to cut into the actual model, because they're reusing the model for Deep Space Nine and whatever else they were using it for.
It's a great looking ship as well. I mean, it's a ship I'm surprised they never made more use of. I've got it in my box over here.
Well, I haven't got the Enterprise B. I've got the Excelsior there. But yeah, I mean, it's there's a lot to like in the film. I think it felt like an extended episode. So you get your character stuff with Data and Geordi, and Troy has a little bit to do, but not much. Riker gets a fair amount to do as well. Worf possibly on the cusp of just being Worf, and then Dr. Crusher has a little bit as well. So they all have little interactions, and Crusher getting pushed off the boat's quite funny.
The whole Data's arc's funny.
Yeah, I hate this. I hate this.
More?
It's revolting.
Yeah, it is good. So there's things to like. We're going to be able to move on quite quickly because my number 6 is Generations. So
yeah, you go to your number 6 then. So Generations.
That's it.
You.
We've talked about it. I'm happy that we've covered it.
Excellent. So that's kind of worked out quite well there. I think there's like I said, there's a lot to like about the film. So right. So then my number 6 is Star Trek 2009.
Okay, go on.
So the reason being is that there's a lot in the film which I kind of have issue with how advanced the technology is at that point when it wasn't that advanced in the original series. And I understand that the original series was made in the 60s and this is made in the 2000s, and but you could have still have toned it down a little bit.
You must have got really upset in Discovery then.
Oh, I hated Discovery. I thought Discovery was a bag of shit, especially with the holograms and stuff. I'm fucking out.
And all when they started using drones as weapons and stuff, I thought, hang on, you can't just start chucking that about.
No, I just thought anything that came after, Discovery and the first 2 seasons of Picard and Strange New Worlds and all that, it's just awful. It's just
Star Trek ended at the end of Voyager, I think.
Yeah.
Proper
right.
Star Trek.
Yeah. But with 2009, I'll just touch on the negatives very quickly, and then I'll jump to the positives because it is number 6, and it's mid-level for me. There's I just feel that the characters of Kirk and Spock didn't need to be. I mean, Kirk in particular didn't need to be as different as they were in the original series because there's not enough evidence there to suggest that Kirk is not this Han Solo brash. Oh, I could be captain in 2 years. So in the original series, it's established that he was on the Farragut and he worked his way up to being on the Enterprise. The Enterprise was built a lot sooner in TOS and was commanded by Robert April, and then it was commanded by Christopher Pike, who's similar age to Kirk, by the way.
But TOS. You do have to, I don't mean to jump in, I'm sorry, but you do have to take into consideration that this is a very different Kirk because of what's happened in his timeline. So it's changed his character irrecoverably.
But did that irrecoverably? I don't know. Changes his character dramatically.
Irrecoverably.
Yeah. But does that mean to say that Pike was born earlier than he should? Because they establish in TOS he's similar age to Kirk. In the Menagerie, he even says that.
Well, I'm almost sure in the movie he's older.
He's older in the movie because he's played by Bruce Greenwood. But he's older in the movie, but in the original series was a similar age to Kirk.
Are you think? But I'm wondering, right? Was he a similar age in the Cage? Because I think the Cage is a good 11, 12 years earlier than
possibly.
So I would
maybe misheard the line. Maybe okay, I'll give you that. But the Enterprise was built by the time Kirk takes over the Enterprise. Kirk's in his 30s. The Enterprise is nearly 10 years old. It's been on 2 5-year missions with
older than that.
Yeah. But
because if the Cage is 11 or 12 years earlier and the Enterprise is knocking about, so that would put it around at least 20 to 15
years. Yeah.
So a long time.
So there's a lot of discrepancy there. They just needed to get because the original idea of Star Trek 6 was to go back and do cadets and then like flashback and all that. So And they obviously didn't go that way, and Harv Bennett left the production, and they ended up reusing the idea for Star Trek 2009. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it in cinema. I thought we'd never seen special effects like that or action like that in a Star Trek film. It was very fast paced, very Star Warsy, and there's a lot to like about the film. It is entertaining. You can sit through it, but you don't have to take it any seriously. But there's just little things like also, how does the Narada get to look like that? Apparently, there's a comic that says that it was Borg technology or something, but that doesn't look like a Romulan ship. Why does that Romulan ship have to be, like tentacles and all this? And why have they not got handrails on? They're just like platforms everywhere. They're just, I need to get from there to there. I'm just going to jump.
Yeah, and it's not imposing at all, because his first introduction, and he's like, "Hello, Christopher. I'm Nero."
Yeah,
it's just like,
"Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero."
Yeah, it's just goofy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's daft. But I think I'm probably nitpicking when I'm picking things out of it to dislike. I personally think it's the one film that my wife would enjoy watching. She doesn't like Star Trek at all. She's given it a go, but
you need to work on that, mate.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I'm hoping by doing the Throwback Thursdays of all the films, that she can watch those and she'll be like, "Oh, I want to watch that now. I'm intrigued."
Is that what you're hoping? So you're going to put all these hours into it, and she's still going to turn around and say, "That just looks." I mean, you're not going to make her watch the motion picture, surely?
No, I know. She's seen Wrath of Khan, she's seen Star Trek 4, and she's seen Star Trek 6. And she enjoyed all three of them, to be fair.
I mean, you've done well just get to watch them. That's love. If she hates it, she's watched them for you.
Yeah. So, but the good things I do like about Star Trek 2009 is the action. Like I said, it's a thrill ride as such. It felt more at the time. We hadn't had that with Star Trek, so it's it just felt fresh. And the good thing about the moving into a different timeline meant that they could go away and do anything from there. So it was a good first film to set up what they wanted to do. It's just a shame that what they ended up doing was trash.
Yeah. True.
So that's my number 6. So what is your number 5?
You're not going to agree with this. Insurrection.
Okay.
I completely understand why most people would disagree with that. This is only because it's a personal choice to me. So we said earlier, it was the first Star Trek film I got to see at the cinema, and because it's like an episode of the show, I think that puts it in good stead, because the episodes were better than the movies. I think we've established that now. So it would make for a really good episode, and it has done, because it is just a rip-off of 2 or 3 different episodes. But I just love how the Enterprise looks in it. I love it, the briar patch and the little fights that they have and everything like that. And
I do like the Enterprise E.
Yeah, it's a lovely looking ship, and
I've got it. It's over there under my light.
Yeah, I've got it. I can't. It's all the way down there for me. I can't be asked. I've done a lot of running around in here now.
No, mine's too far away for me to go and grab it, but it does light up. If I plugged it in, I just can't be asked plugging it in.
I mean, the future is you should just be able to call it. It should just be able to fly over to you like a drone.
Yeah, Bluetoothed.
Oh my god! You know, if they invented models that could just fly around, like people have trains that go around.
Yeah, they do. They're called drones.
No, but you wouldn't have them around your house just floating around, would you? Just drones make noise. If you just had...
that's true.
I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm sorry.
Insurrection. This is what like an insurrection's done to your brain.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Is it the best movie? No. Is it the worst movie? No. It's probably higher on my list than it ought to be, but personally, I enjoyed it.
But that's the whole point of this kind of list and discussion, is that you're able to kind of articulate that I like this for my own reasons. I'm not going to say I hate it because everybody expects me to. And I'm not going to
say you're wrong because you've got it lower down your list. I probably would say you're probably right to have it lower down in the list for most people, but for me, in my personal experience, I really enjoyed Insurrection. I would put Insurrection on before where I would put on The Voyage Home. That's just me, though.
I remember going to see it I mean, Kieran will correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe I've been to see every Star Trek film in cinema since Star Trek 5. I'm sure of. Definitely remember seeing Star Trek 6, and I remember seeing them all the way through, all the way to Star Trek Beyond. And I did enjoy Insurrection in cinema. I did. I didn't get the same thrill out of Insurrection as I did with Nemesis, just because that end battle. For that end battle was great when I saw that in cinema. I was obviously a lot younger, but I think the older I get, the more I kind of enjoy the series episodes on a different level to how I used to when I was younger. And I can understand why you like Insurrection for the reasons you do, because it's more like an episode.
Yes, yeah, very much so. And I remember watching it, and Data has always been one of my, for most people it would be anyway, but always one of my favourite characters. And every time there's a Data-centric episode, they were probably my favourite ones. So for the movie to start out with Data gone rogue, and he's fighting all them dudes, and I thought, what a great intro to the movie. I thought it was a fantastic opener.
But he just his arc gets completed a bit too soon, and the rest of the film, about halfway through, Data's just off. He's just a background character after that.
He is. But I liked Ruafu. You know the
guy, something Abrams. What's his name?
Murray.
F. Murray Abrams.
Yeah, I've always liked that. He was in Scarface. Enjoyed him in that and loads of other movies. But I thought he played an excellent villain, because there's that with the wrong actor that could have looked so silly, because the whole stretching skin thing, but there was like a horror element to that, because do you remember they put the Admiral in the chair, and they stretched his face out. When you watch it now, it's funny because they've just basically stretched the picture on the computer.
Do you know they cut that out on the English release?
Did they really?
Yeah, they cut that out on the English release to get it down to a PG rating. They cut it back a bit, so you didn't quite see it.
Well, it's funny because isn't it funny how psychology works? Because in my mind, I thought I saw that happen, but obviously they must have just shown you enough for your mind to fill in the gaps. But
yeah,
I remember being horrified, and I loved it. I thought, oh, wow.
Bit of body horror, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So, and I liked the bit towards the end when they realise they're on the holodeck, and the experiment's gone wrong, and I thought, oh yeah, I was into it.
I mean, obviously, they take a lot of bits out of other episodes. So that holodeck was obviously taken from the Homewood episode, where they have to move the people onto the Enterprise holodeck. And I think the benefit of hindsight in there is that you've got this hollow ship that can power this holodeck for however long it needs to, whereas the Enterprise struggled to power the holodeck, and they're having to kind of patch things up as they go and stuff, and they really struggled with the power consumption of it. So I quite like how in Insurrection they just, we don't need a starship, we're just going to have a holodeck ship. So you're not going to have that problem.
I mean, the logistics of how that would work, I've never understood how the holodeck worked in that regards, because if they've only got this, I mean, it's still a small ship at the end of the day. What happens if one of them wants to go up the mountain? How does that work?
Yeah, that's true. It's still a magical bullshit device.
Yeah, it is. But what I'll enjoy, right? Where it's got one of the best no's in the movie. When Darth Vader does his big no.
Yeah, that's awful.
Compare that with Ruafu in this film, and he does this out.
Yeah. I think I meant right at the end where he goes, no! He gets encompassed by the flames.
But this is the bit when he realizes he's on the hollow ship.
Yeah, and then he's echoed out into space. Not like when you get Khan. Yeah. I know what you mean.
Buried alive. Buried alive.
Yeah, it's just like Shatner does that little shake, doesn't he, just before he shouts it. Right. Anything else? Anything else?
No. I just to sum up, I enjoyed it for personal reasons. Yes, I did.
Right. So my number 5 is The Voyage Home. Mainly because I find it really entertaining. I find it really funny. He had a double dumbass on you, and I think he did a little bit too much LDS in the 70s.
Yeah,
and I was like, that's brilliant. I just like the kind of fish out of water stuff that they've tried to replicate again, especially in season 2 of Picard tried to redo all of that in a really dark way there, and it just didn't work. They even got the guy back, the punk guy, to play the same character again in Picard season 2, to the point where I was just like, oh, you dickheads.
I do often think of that scene, when I'm on the bus or the train and someone, people do it, right? why don't people wear earphones nowadays? So you've got people on the bus and they play
they're
music
like
out the phone.
Oh, Christ, and you dropped my phone. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Just hold it like this. Put it on. Why does everybody else have to hear your conversation?
Or it's the music that gets me. It's why the play, and I think of Spock in those moments. But
nerve pinch.
I would go to prison if I didn't. Obviously, first of all, it won't work because I'm not Vulcan.
Imagine just going up and just like it's like McCoy in Star Trek 3 when he's in the bar where the Federation security guard that is there. He's just like trying to give him the Vulcan pinch.
Yeah. But yes, that's how I feel.
So my number 5 is obviously Voyage Home for the reasons that it kind of ends the trilogy of Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock. It just brings that whole story to an end. But Kirk also completes his arc. So Kirk's got an arc in Wrath of Khan, which then gets extended into Search for Spock and then progresses. And then by the end of Star Trek 4, he's back to commanding a starship. He's got his friend back, but he's obviously lost his previous ship and he's lost his son in the process. But these are hardships and things that he's had to go through for him to realize what he needs to do to get back to where he is best. The sacrifices that he's made and stuff. And I quite like how his journey isn't straightforward. I think William Shatner's always given a bit of a bad rap as being somebody who overacts. But if you watch these films, I don't think that William Shatner's an overactor. The odd line here, there, and everywhere. But I actually think that Star Trek 4, again, is probably one of the best character films by letting them have their hair down and being a little bit more loose with the script and having a bit more fun with it and stuff. And I think the two films previous were quite heavy.
Computer.
Computer. Hello, computer.
Hello.
Oh, use the keyboard. How quaint.
Yeah. But is there... I'm going to get trashed if I remember this wrong. Is there something in the film... Is it his glasses or something else?
Yeah.
There's a loop, isn't there?
Yeah, it's his glasses. So his glasses get cracked in Wrath of Khan, and he sells the glasses to the antique shop. And I think in the future, McCoy buys those glasses, and
it's like a paradox or something.
Like a paradox. It's almost like he was meant to do it. So they're so I think that's the argument that with Scotty telling the guy how to make it's transparent aluminium,
not aluminum.
It's not aluminum. What the hell is aluminum? It's aluminium. So the transparent aluminum.
Because it's Scotty, isn't it? Who does that? So he should know better.
Yeah, he should know better. But his argument, which is just a throwaway line, which is brilliant, is why? How do I know he didn't invent the bloody thing? I think, yeah, fair enough. And then there's no repercussions of that in the future. So everything they do there, they're supposed to do. It's all it's all along the line, isn't it? There's no change in the future other than they're bringing humpback whales in to tell the probe what to go do with itself, as McCoy says.
Yeah, and that doesn't create an alternate timeline like it does in Star Trek. So who knows?
No, so I think it's quite clever that they were supposed to do that. There's no repercussion because it's fate or what have you. But yeah, I just find the film really entertaining. I think it's a nice change to what we had before. My only downside of the film is the score. I think the score's weak. It's by Leonard Rossman, I think his name is. He did the score for like the animated Lord of the Rings film, and then he did the score for RoboCop 2, which is pretty much exactly the same score for Star Trek 4, and it's poor. I don't know what your thoughts are of the scores on Star Trek, but my favourite will always be from Star Trek 2 and 3 with James Horner's scores. I think are the best. Yeah, I think just lovely sweeping scores that are they're very maritime-y as well. There's got a lot of what was the word I was searching for, but I've completely forgotten it. But I'll come back to it later when the word pops back into my head.
Cool story, bro.
Cool story, bro. Yeah. So, so what is your number 4?
My number 4 is Star Trek 2009.
I thought it might
It's a weird one because Star Trek TNG should be my top movies. TOS film. Basically, what I'm saying is that the JJ film shouldn't be anywhere near the top. But
No,
objectively, I think it's a thoroughly
swashbuckling.
film. Swashbuckling.
That was the word I was searching for.
Okay,
Sorry.
It's all right. From start to finish, I think this film is fantastic. It's a really, really good film. You can sit and watch it from start to finish and be really entertained.
It's an easy watching film.
It's an easy watching film. It's good for casuals and folks like us, nerds alike. So it's deserving of number 4 in my book easily. I think it's just I can't find fault with it.
No, I mean I kind of agree to an extent. I mean I've got it as number 6 purely because I think there are 2 better films on my list in my opinion. But yeah, I kind of agree. Where you come, there's a lot of excitement. I mean, I remember being really excited to go see it before it was in cinema and just watching the trailers and stuff. And the trailers, I don't feel the trailers gave you enough to think, like, oh, I know what's going to happen in this film. You didn't really see the Enterprise all that much either. I mean, I remember feeling really gutted when I saw the Enterprise revealed in a still or something that was released, and I just thought, oh, fuck, that's a terrible looking.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I think for me. Part of the reason I like it so much, again, it's like personal experience. At that time, folks of our age will remember Star Trek was dead; it was gone. It was all about Star Wars, and Star Trek had gone out of a bit of a whimper, really, with Enterprise in 2001. I think
that was a bad last episode, wasn't it?
It was, and you have to remember this film came out in 2009, so we had quite a barren run there of no Star Trek, not even really that many good games or anything. It was just sort of a thing in the past. So when it was announced that they were going to be making this new film and it started to look like it was going to be good, and you had new fans coming, it's just a good time, and it kicked off a bit of a resurgence in some ways because it's mad to think we're 15 years on from that now. But, Star Trek has sort of come back into the limelight a lot since then, and. Not always the best projects, but it was an exciting time to be a Star Trek fan, and I relate that back to the film.
I think it was for me it was like the start of the end for where Star Trek's gone to now, and the poor writing and over special effects and littering the screen with stuff like Voyager was the last good series. I mean, Enterprise, I think season 4 of Enterprise was pretty decent. Didn't like the first 2 seasons of Enterprise. I think it started to pick up on from season 3 and season 4. But I think Voyager you kind of look back on as that was the last status quo kind of series, if you will. But yeah, I think 2009 is a decent film. It's
very good. It's very good.
So my number 4, this might shock you, is First Contact. But
right, I'm leaving. I'm gone, mate. I'm not having this. This is shit. This is bullshit.
It's like the Daniel Radcliffe playing Wolverine of the list, isn't it?
It's just double dumbass on you, mate. It's not happening.
So the reason I've got it at number 4, purely because I was more of a TOS films fan, and I was a fan of Next Generation, but I kind of just feel that it was a bit too much of a departure from the characters and the setting and everything that we knew from previous films, etc. For me, and then there was a lot of Rafa Khan in it, which was done well. It's a bit of a spin on it with in Rafa Khan. Obviously, Khan is more of the Ahab character, and Kirk is the white whale. Whereas in First Contact, the Borg are the white whale and Picard's Ahab, which is in both films is actually point blank thrown in your face. This is the reference to the point in First Contact. Lily actually says Ahab trying to catch
you broke your
whale.
Little ships.
You broke your little ships. Yeah.
I think that's handled so brilliantly, actually. Because
it is.
It's not revenge for the sake of revenge, which you do see in a lot of these films. They stripped him of his identity, and they hurt him as a person.
There's a connection. There's a serious connection with it. So I mean, I haven't got anything bad to say about the film. I think First Contact is. I remember seeing it in cinema, and it actually frightened me at times. It felt the Borg. This was before Voyager, in my opinion, ruined the Borg. The Borg were just too much. They were overused, and they watered them down. And
they pulled the curtain too much on them, didn't they? It was better when they was a bit mysterious. So the fact that there was a Borg queen, that was big time news. That was crazy.
Whoa!
There's a queen. That's mad. But then it was just they're coming out with all sorts of stuff like Unimatrix Zero and stuff like that. If that's is that what they used to call it, and all sorts
something
of
like
stuff.
that. Yeah, something like that. But I just think that like the Enterprise E looks absolutely it looks the best in that film than it did in the all three of those films that the Enterprise E was in. Mainly because the
models are completely different, aren't they? Because
there was CG in the last two films, and it was a model in that film.
Yeah, so there's stuff out there you can see, but you can see side by side designs, and they are almost very different looking ships actually, because then the cells and things are all in different places. But I agree, it's never looked better than in that film.
I actually prefer the Enterprise E to the Enterprise D. From a
get out.
from a just from it looks more like the refit kind of silhouette in certain angles. I do like the Enterprise D.
You like the longer ship, do you?
I do like the long ship. Not a big fan of the fat D.
No, I like the girth. I do.
But First Contact is only number 4 because I get a lot more enjoyment out of 3 other films.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
That's purely it for me. I really enjoyed seeing it in cinema, but we'll come back to First Contact when you speak about it. So now we're into our top 3s. So what will be your number 3?
My number 3, I'll give you a clue, right? It's there's a certain character who goes, fire!
Oh, yeah.
Star Trek: The Undiscovered Country.
I bet you wish you stayed in bed.
Excuse me. Undiscovered Country. What a great film that is.
Yeah,
it's superb. It's almost like 2 is just great, and then 6 and the 2 in the middle, they're good, but number 2 and number 6, good times.
Nicholas Meyer at his best.
Yeah. I mean, it's no coincidence to me. Yeah, it's the same guy. I mean, I just wish he'd made more.
Yeah, I do.
But everything about that film is so good. From usually the things that I would find boring, I enjoy in this film. The politics angle and the assassination stuff, and it just all plays out beautifully.
And I'll come onto it when I speak about it, but there's a mystery in there as well. So it's kind of cobbling together different things to keep you interested. I don't think they've had a villain in Star Trek as good as Khan, but I do think General Chang is right up there.
Oh, he's a brilliant character. He's one of the best. You're very memorable.
Especially he's just quoting Shakespeare as if Shakespeare was a Klingon. But I do like the theory. Do you know there's that picture of Shakespeare? He's got a massive forehead and big long hair.
Yeah.
You think he was a Klingon that landed on Earth and.
Yeah,
that's it.
I mean, I just love in that film. He's just a very articulated character. It's very different to all the other Klingons who were just like, "Bro, fight!" And he's just got a way about him that's just compelling. And
he's educated.
Yeah, he's different and in a good way. I just really enjoyed the whole experience from start to finish. It's
it's an excellent film, as I'll come on to in a bit. So, my number 3 is The Search for Spock. I absolutely love Star Trek 3. There are times when I think it's probably my favorite out of all of the Star Trek films, but I can't put it number 1 because there are 2 other films that are just technically better in overall. But the reasons why I like Star Trek 3 is the musical score by James Horner. I've seen some reviews on YouTube, which I'd like to call out now. I'm not going to name them because I can't remember what they're called. I think they say how the musical score in Star Trek 3 is just reused score from Star Trek 2, and it's the same as Battle Beyond the Stars. You actually listen to the score, there's a lot of very different cues and motifs and stuff in those 2 films, the 2 scores. yeah, they uses the same theme because it's a continuation of the previous film. So why not continue the score in the same
that
vein?
makes sense.
So
completely.
I think it gets a bit of a bad rap for that. And for anybody who thinks otherwise on that, I just personally think you just need to go and listen to those scores. But the stealing of the Enterprise scene is, for me, the best scene in all of Star Trek, hands down, personally. The Enterprise is moving so slowly. I mean, how does it take 2 minutes? It's supposed to take 2 minutes from clearing the moorings and then getting to the door, but it's still an exciting scene. It's because of the way it's just shot and the way it's cut, and the pacing of it is excellent. It's the music is at its best. I just find it. I can still watch it now, and it still gives me goosebumps just watching it, thinking this is brilliant. But it introduced like the Excelsior, it introduced the Oberth class, the Grissom, the Bird of Prey. It introduced a lot into the world of Star Trek. It tries to up the ante. It becomes more of a space opera. Christopher Lloyd's brilliant in it. David gets killed, which is a bold move, in all honesty, to kill him off after he was only introduced in the last film, and he's not really established a relationship with Kirk yet. And then you've got the destruction of the Enterprise, which gets me right here every time, without a doubt. It gets me where I live, and that for me is how do you top Rafa Khan? Well, you don't top it. You try to do something else, which is just big and do you know what? I think Search for Spock as an odd numbered film gets it's an odd number one. It's rubbish. It's followed Rafa Khan. It's an excellent film in my opinion. Leonard Nimoy's first film, and it's brilliant.
Bit of a happy accident in some ways as well, because Leonard Nimoy. I've had enough of Star Trek. Oh my God! Look how much money it's made.
I'll direct this next one.
I ought to. Spock. There's a way for Spock to come back. And I'll direct it as well. Yeah, that's a great idea. So, but you wonder, don't you, if I'm being quite cynical of the man there, but it's funny, isn't it? Because if he hadn't have gone through that, what would number 3 have been?
Nicholas Meyer didn't want to come back to direct it because he thought that Spock should have stayed dead, and it was cheapening the death scene of the previous one, and it was, the fans demanded that Spock came back. Apparently, it was a big part of it. Like, we didn't want Spock to go, so they had to give the fans something to cling on to. But and they gave it him in the next film. I mean, you knew they were going to find Spock by the end. You were going to imagine.
What? There's a spoiler right there in the effing title, man.
I mean, imagine Kirk just going to the camera right there and went, "Fucking, we tried. Don't know where he is. Right, we're off."
I loved it because I have some sympathy for those people that say he ought to stay dead, because to some extent, he made his, the actor made his choice, and death's pretty hard to come back from, as we know.
But it's science fiction.
It is. And it was lucky for them that they had this whole Genesis thing going on, because it's. I can buy what's happened there. I'm okay with it, but
it was done well, I thought.
It did. It's stuff like when it happens in Marvel stuff and super. Characters should stay dead. I think. Once they're dead. I'm not interested in them coming back.
Spock's the exception to it. I think Spock's he's the exception, but
apart from Kirk and his super blood.
Oh, fuck's sake! Yeah, he should have stayed dead. So Search for Spock, number 3 for me. So what is your big fat number 2?
My big fat number 2. Well, my number 2 column is. I'm doing like an X Factor thing. Is it
yeah.
First Contact.
Oh, really? Okay. So that must mean we definitely got different number 1s. So you've got First Contact. So go on then.
First Contact. I was almost tempted to put it as number 1. Actually, we talked about it a little bit, didn't we? There, but what Picard goes through in that film, it's not a straightforward revenge thriller.
Yeah,
it's a fantastic sort of analysis of his character. Being such an uptight, reserved person, to be stripped down naked in every way possible like that is and this is a testament to how well the character's been written over the years. We know that is his absolute worst fear, being exposed like that and being stripped down to that point. So for him to change from the TV show character to this character, I can sort of buy it in some ways because of what's happened to him in this movie. To see him come back and these memories to resurface, I can buy that. So I love that. I'm not so much of a fan of the Earth stuff because, again, like I've been saying, I'm not bothered about the stuff on the planet. I never have been. But what I like about that though is at the end where you have got this nice way of wrapping the film up with that first contact scene. It's full of hope. It's full of, not to be cheesy, but it's full of like hope and wonder, and
but that's what Star Trek's supposed to be. It's supposed to be full of hope and wonder.
And the score is so good.
Jerry Goldsmith,
the scene is absolutely fantastic in that scene. I really love the. Did you see the Enterprise version of that?
Yeah, when
where they shoot the Vulcans with
the Vulcans. Yeah, that's great.
But yeah, the film it's clever.
It's a shotgun, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's a shotgun, and it's still got that same music playing in it.
Yeah.
But it defies expectations, the film, because in the first 10-15 minutes you've got the big space battle. Normally you get that at the end.
Yeah, that's true.
But then it's a very clever way. The battle's on the ship itself, and you've got this almost like trenches war sort of feel throughout the film, and all the characters have got their moments to shine. Data's got a really good part in it. I mean, they all struggle to do something with the Doctor, don't they? I mean, that's just a fact.
I mean, she has a bit more to do in it because she's
a little bit more.
Yeah, I think she's got the most to do in First Contact than she does in any of the other films.
They do great stuff with Worf. This is probably Worf's best film.
Yeah, definitely it is.
If you were any other man, I'd kill you where you stand. You know, that's awesome.
Perhaps today is a good day to die.
I mean, they even found a good place for Barclay.
Yeah, carrying the conduit, which was a prop from Forbidden Planet.
Yes. So, I mean, it's good. It's clever, actually, because they find things for the other characters to do on the surface, and it just sort of, it nicely flows. I just think if I had to choose a film to show someone who's never watched Star Trek before, I would be very tempted to put this film on just as an introduction.
I'd agree. I really would agree. I think special effects are flawless, and it came out in '96. I think you could put it on today, and it's as good as anything you get today. Anything,
because it's as good as we talked about it before, haven't we? But that it was still using a lot of models and things practical effects, which still hold up really well, I think.
Yeah, they do. They really do.
And then you've got this whole thing with the Borg, and they are scary in the film, aren't they?
They are, yeah, they really are. They've still got that kind of aura to them in the film as well. And I don't think having the Queen takes anything away from that.
Oh my God, the Queen! That scene where you see her for the first time, and she
and the spine cord, and
wow, yeah. I mean, it's full of good moments, that film, and. I mean, I know I rated Insurrection highly on my list, but going from that film, they should have kicked off to be even better films from there. They did dip straight away from there. I don't know how that happened. I don't know how you look at a film like First Contact and then go on to make Insurrection. As much as I personally enjoyed it, I'm surprised that they couldn't build on that to make something a little bit better. That's a testament to how good First Contact is.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. I mean, where have I got it in my list? I've got it as number 4, mainly because I just enjoy Search for Spock a lot more than that. But and the film, that's my top 2. But yeah, I have to agree. I think it's seeing the Enterprise E for the first time as well. It's like, what a gorgeous ship, and it's just it's a well-directed film. It's very well edited, and it's paced really well as well. And Jerry Goldsmith's score's fantastic. So I'll give you that. I think that one's great. So right, my number 2. I think you're going to hate me for this.
You better not. It's time to change it.
No, they're in. My reasons are Rafa Khan is my number 2.
I am so shocked. I'm really surprised about this. You
I
better
will
have some
say,
reasons.
well, I will say that I kind of toyed with Rafa Khan and Undiscovered Country. Which one do I like them? I watch Undiscovered Country more than I watch Rafa Khan, purely just because I get that end battle with. I'm kind of merging my number one and number two here, but my end battle with the bird of prey. So in Rafa Khan, that end battle in the Nebula is like cat and mouse. So you've got they're blind. You've got the Reliant and the Enterprise are trying to find one another. Kirk, well, it's more Spock gives Kirk the idea of his two-dimensional thinking. Okay, right. We use this to our advantage. Whereas in the Undiscovered Country, it's not so much as a cat and mouse. It's the cat that's caught the mouse and is playing with it, but kind of overdoes it, and then the mouse kind of bites back, if you will. But Rafa Khan for me is number two because I feel that they used a lot of the character stuff from Rafa Khan and what we knew about the characters, and they kind of elevated a bit more. There's more of an encompassing story in Undiscovered Country, with obviously that allegory of the wall coming down in space. The Klingons being the Soviets, if you will. And the mystery that's going on at the same time. So you get that Sherlock Holmes type mystery going on, and you've also got Kirk and McCoy trying to escape Rura Penthe, and they've kind of got their own thing going and stuff. And I just feel that although Rafa Khan works really well because it's more encompassed, quite tight story, and the characters are doing their own. It's more centered around Kirk. Kirk is really the only one who has any kind of character development. Spock has very little to do in Rafa Khan until the very end. Spock's role in the film is he's a guide to Savick, and then he's the one who has to sacrifice himself because he's the trainer of the Kobayashi Maru, if you will. He's never taken the test himself, so he's willing to do what it takes to complete that test, and that's what he's learnt by kind of doing, being the teacher. And Kirk doesn't really ever do that. Kirk has to kind of cheat his way through it and stuff. So kind of jumping around a little bit with these two, but that's why I
want to say something. You're talking about Rafa Khan more than you're talking about Undiscovered Country, so I've got to question your decision here.
It's because this is number two. I'm talking more about Rafa Khan because this is my number two decision, and we're going to come on to Undiscovered Country a bit more afterwards. But my whole thing with this, yesterday when I wrote my list, Rafa Khan was number one, and then when I was thinking about it today, I kind of going to be a bit bold here. I'm going to put it at number two because I know it's going to be your number one. But it's a hard one to really separate them, in my opinion, because they're both so good. I mean, on TV, when you're watching it on your big flat screen TV, you've got your Blu-ray in, Undiscovered Country looks a lot better and a lot cleaner and crisper because it's a newer film. And it had a bigger, it would have had a bigger budget, but
I thought so.
But it had a reduced budget because of the failure of Star Trek V. But the only thing I feel that lets Undiscovered Country down slightly is the score. They should have had James Horner score, but he didn't want to come back for it. So yeah, I have to admit I'm like that with Rafa Khan and Undiscovered Country. But I just feel that end battle scene between the Enterprise and the Cloaked Bird of Prey, I find a bit more gripping than the Enterprise in the Nebula. As good as that is, I just find it. The Enterprise trying to escape away from Reliant when Reliant's where the Genesis device is kind of on its countdown is great, but Chan playing with Kirk, if you will, he's the cat that's caught the mouse, and he's getting a little bit too confident and cocky. So they're my top ones there.
Well, you're wrong. You are wrong. That's all I've got to say. You've got the Wrath of Sean coming now. No, Rafa Khan's a clear winner for me. Excuse me. I like everything about it. So when you start out and Kirk's in a foul mood because it's his birthday, he's getting older,
turning 50, and
it's a great theme that plays out for all the movie, and it's really well done what they've done with that there, and I enjoyed that the universe feels a bit bigger because you've got the Reliant now, another star. Probably, from my memory, but the first time you really spend some significant time on another ship.
Well, it's the
I
other
can
thing
remember.
is it's the first time you see another Federation starship that doesn't look exactly the same as the Enterprise.
Yeah, exactly. So it's that's exciting. Chekhov's moved on, and so obviously they get down to the planet, and that scene with Ricardo Montalban,
Montalban, yeah.
This is SETI Alpha 5.
This is SETI Alpha 5. Yeah, that's great.
I mean, there was always that thing. Sorry.
Yeah, with Chekhov. I know we were going to say it.
Yeah, so you can fill this gap in with a fan theory. So
I was literally just going to say that.
There's this discrepancy where Khan says, "I never forget a face," and the Chekhov. But Chekhov was not in that episode. I don't think he joined the crew yet.
No.
But the popular fan theory, which you can get on board with, I think, is he was probably just a member of the crew and he hadn't yet been made up to that station yet. I can live with that.
I can live with that as well. I think it's nitpicking.
So the scene where they're in the Reliant and they've not put the shields up yet, and let's get a bit closer. That I'm doing it poor justice.
It's a great scene.
Probably the best. I would say probably the best 10 minutes in any Star Trek film ever. More so than the USS Vengeance that I talked about earlier. This is so much better because that was cool because of the effects and everything. This is cool because of the tension. No one's even fired a shot yet.
No, that's true. That is true.
And it's red hot tension. That is. I mean, you could argue the actual fight itself isn't. You don't really see anything. It's not even that good. It's more like a bit like a Balance of Terror. It's more like a submarine movie.
Well, yeah, they took elements of that. So Harv Bennett, when he was brought on, he watched every single episode and he selected a handful of episodes that they can use. And obviously Space Seed was one and Balance of Terror was another. But it was also, was it Das Boot was another big inspiration. Right. And Horatio Hornblower was a big inspiration for the Kirk character and stuff. So Nick Meyer wanted it to be a lot more seafaring and a lot more militaristic, which Roddenberry hated. But I agree with everything that Nick Meyer did in that film.
Oh yeah, it changed everything. I mean, would Star Trek even be around now without that film? Who knows?
So I was just going to say that the only other reason why I kind of put Undiscovered Country.
Undiscovery.
Undiscovery. Yeah, I wish I could undiscover Discovery. It's mainly because a lot of films further down the line had to try and replicate Rafa Khan, whereas the Undiscovered Country didn't replicate it. Not really. It kind of built upon it slightly. It did its own thing, and no one's ever really tried to do that again. So that for me is another reason why it kind of ever so slightly won out on Rafa Khan. But just to go back to that scene, sorry. It does well to try and show it's not just two ships and two crews, it's the two individuals. So Khan is like ready to pounce from the shadows. Kirk doesn't know he's there, doesn't know what he's up against, but also shows how much Kirk is out of practice and how off his own footing he really is. So that scene does a lot to try and do quite a few different things there. And it's more centered about Kirk's vulnerability in command. He's not the person that he was, and he has to use this as a kind of like a springboard to try and get back to who he was and learn.
Definitely. And I think we've talked about it before with the first Star Wars, but necessity being the mother of invention. So I think the story goes they couldn't get Shatner and Montalban together. The schedules wouldn't allow for it.
Montalban was filming
was it Fantasy Island?
Fantasy Island, yeah, Mr. Rourke.
So they had to come up with this way to keep them apart and keep the story going. And what you get is this fantastic cat and mouse. But full well, if they had got them together, Kirk would have been rolling around on the floor like he usually did. And it wouldn't have been, I think, probably wouldn't have been half as good as what the film we got.
I think the way they did it was brilliant, because you never watch that film and think, oh, what's really lacking from this is a fist fight between Kirk and Khan. Well, you had that in Space Seed. and it's ridiculous because Khan's double Kirk's strength.
Yeah.
So it's a battle of wits more than anything else.
But I would say that, I mean, it is my favourite of the Star Trek films, but there are problems with it, I think. So he's meant to be super intelligent, right? He's meant to be the smartest villain out there. And even I cracked the code when I was watching it as a kid. It feels like Lieutenant Savick. Hours would feel like days. And then they're like, oh, right, yeah, go on.
I mean, I got it, and I'm only watching.
Right, yeah. Big wink, over this thing. And then Khan's meant to be eating this up, going, oh my God, they're out of action for days. I don't buy it. I never have done. I always felt that was a bit of a leap.
The other thing I don't buy is, how do they not know that SETI Alpha 5 exploded?
Yeah.
Or SETI Alpha 6 exploded. I can't remember which way around it is. And the
SETI Alpha 6 exploded, I think. Yeah, they knocked it out of orbit.
Knocked it out of its orbit, and it took up the exploded planet's orbit. But how, the Federation or Starfleet, that's their job. Surely they would have kept a monitor on him because he's a big badass. But how would they have not known that?
I don't know. I mean, it happens, doesn't it? I mean, I have important files at work that go missing. It does get
That's not like a planet exploding.
I mean, it is all digital now, so no, it doesn't happen. But it has happened in the old paper days. But get myself in trouble here. But I can almost believe that, because we don't know where SETI Alpha 5 is in the general scheme of things. If it's out beyond Federation space, then who is keeping tabs? It's not necessarily happening.
They needed a way to stumble across him. At the end of the day, it's a small nitpick, but
I mean, you would like to think the point I will make, which is similar but slightly different to yours, is when it turns out that they've got to go to SETI Alpha 6 to check the planet. You'd have thought there'd be a ping on a console to say, "Oh, just FYI, this is the system where Kirk left left those guys on that planet, so you might just be aware of that."
The tyrant.
Yes, so that's a fail. But the other thing was this thing at the end where Khan only thinks in 2D. I don't buy it. I think a man of his intelligence,
he would have noticed.
He would
know he's in space. He can go. I think that as well.
I can just about let it go, because maybe in the heat of the moment he didn't realise it, but I struggle to buy that Khan doesn't think in 3D.
I think the thing to consider there is Khan is so blinded by his rage that he's unable to think properly. He's unable to articulate, and
maybe
it's going back to the Ahab kind of like trying to hunt his whale, and Ahab is besotted with rage for being crippled. So it's the same with Khan. He's just absolutely besotted with trying to capture Kirk and destroy him, and wanting to better him and stuff. So he's just completely blinded by all that, even to the point where his right hand man, Joaquin, he's not even credited in the film as well. And what is funny, both him and the guy who plays David both turn up on the same episode of Next Generation.
I remember. Yeah, I do remember that.
He keeps saying that, you've got Genesis, you don't need to keep going after him, and it's really interesting how they use the same theme in First Contact, and they flipped it around, but Picard destroys his white whale, if you will. But I just find that Rafa Khan is I've just written my script for the TT, and one of the things I did notice about all of it was, because I was watching the DVD extras or the Blu-ray extras, was that they had 5 scripts written before Nicholas Meyer was brought on as director, and he took those 5 scripts and took things out of this one and took things out of that one and cobbled it all together in 12 days, and he had a finished script which cobbled together ideas from different scripts, and I just find it hard to believe that he was able to do that, because it seems such a small story. It's just revenge, isn't it? It's just he's cheating here, and then you've got this device which has very little consequence in the grand scheme of things, other than it's got a bigger consequence going into the next film, creating the planet, and the planet's proto matter, and it's going to blow up, blah blah blah. But I just think it's such a cleverly written film.
Do you know, sometimes Sometimes the best stories are the simple ones.
Yeah.
Just like No Country for Old Men, right? That's
Yeah.
a good example of that.
Yeah.
It's just, what's the film about? One guy's got money, the other guy is chasing him to get the money back off him. That's it. That's the film. But it's how they do it. It's done so well, and it's a bit like that. This here, it's a very simple story, but they've laid it in a nice way, and the performances. I mean, everybody. I mean, Kirk and Khan both played so well. I think by each actor. So it's just a fantastic film. I look forward to watching it again. And the score.
I watched it on Saturday. Brilliant.
Yeah. Great. It was always going to be number one for me.
I just wish they'd stop trying to remake it. They've just that's.
But you can't blame the original film for that, though.
You can't. You can't. You can blame the filmmaker or the people in charge of Star Trek who just haven't got enough knowledge of Star Trek in the first place.
And that's like an ode to how good it was. The fact that they keep going back to that because it was just the peak Star Trek film. I
was kind of like hoping that you would have Rafa Khan as number one. I think I might have to put it as number one on mine as well. It's just that and Undiscovered Country for me. I just can't really separate them. But I was going to try and end this discussion where we've been talking for over 2 hours now, which is great. Yeah. Which one would you prefer, right? Wrath of Khan or Empire Strikes Back?
Excuse me. Wrath of Khan.
I'd go with Wrath of Khan as well.
But I've always been more of a Star Trek fan than a Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
I would say. Here's a question back at you. I've got Wrath of Khan and Undiscovered Country here, right? I'm going to delete one of them forever. You will never be able to watch one of them ever again. It's gone. Which one am I getting rid of?
You're getting rid of Star Trek 6.
So, I mean, for you.
That's just a hard one to go by because I don't really think you can have Star Trek 6 without Wrath of Khan as such, because the characters by Star Trek 6 have been through all of that.
Right. I'm sorry. I've asked the question in a really weird way. What I'm basically saying is, if you can only watch one film again,
right,
which one would it be?
So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we'll end the...
No, come on, let's have it.
I think I would go with Star Trek 6. I think I'd have to get rid of Star Trek 6 and only watch Star Trek 2.
So has that made you think twice now?
It's made me hate you a little bit more.
Great. That's what I wanted.
It's a horrible, horrible thing to... It's like trying to choose between your children and stuff.
Is that Sophie's Choice?
It's Sophie's Choice, yeah.
I'm going to shoot one of these films. Which one am I shooting?
Oh, God, yeah. I think on that note, though, I think it probably... I'm going to change my number one to Wrath of Khan.
I have succeeded in my mission.
I think you're right, though. I think it's Undiscovered Country is obviously a much more polished film and whatnot, but I think Wrath of Khan's just got a lot more going for it. Have you seen this? There's a video on YouTube. Sorry to carry on here, but just to end up, there's a video on YouTube where someone's taken the Enterprise leaving space dock scene from Star Trek 6. And they've redone all the special effects with the Enterprise in space dock, but they used James Horner's score from Star Trek 3. And then just as the doors open, because you get in it in Star Trek 6, you're actually seeing it on board the bridge and through the view screen, but you're actually seeing it all as the Enterprise moving. So you've seen the thrusters fire, and then just as the impulse engine goes full impulse or 1/4 impulse, it just flies straight out of space dock, and it's so well done. I have to send it to you, but it's such a good video. It really
sounds incredibly dangerous.
It does sound incredibly dangerous. It's but it's always also because there's a discrepancy with Kirk saying in Star Trek 6 1/4 impulse power, and Valaris says, "Well, you're only supposed to use thrusters," and Kirk's like, 1/4 impulse power. That's the order. Do it. But in Star Trek 3, when they're stealing the Enterprise, 1/4 impulse power takes 2 minutes to get to the space doors.
Yeah.
So, it's a bit... Yeah, I'm nitpicking with that one. But, I think, all in all, I think we've got fairly similar kind of view
beginnings
on
and ends. Yeah,
yeah.
What makes up the middle's wild.
Yeah, I think the films that we dislike, or the ones that we view the lowest, are similar. They're just slightly different ordered. But the ones that we really like are, again, they're just slightly different ordered. And I think the middle of the road ones are always going to be the hardest ones to place, really. So
I would say your list probably would resemble what most people's would. I think yours is probably closer to what most people who would watch this would probably agree with your list than mine.
Maybe, yeah.
I will say so. I mean, mine is very personal. I knew that when I was drawing the list up. But yeah, I'm happy with my choices.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, what have we got coming up on the channel soon for anybody who's watching the end of this? We've got a few more shorts coming up. I think you've got a short coming up very soon.
Yeah, and my very long-awaited Batman TT.
Looking forward to seeing that. That'll be good.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it on the channel before. I'm so, if you're someone who's waiting for it, we're really sorry. It's for both
busy.
of us at the moment. We are. It's life stuff, So when we started the channel in September, we both had a lot more time.
Yeah, that's true.
And we will have time again. I mean, I know for myself, I've had a lot of life changes in the past few months, and good ones.
Oh yeah,
but
definitely.
it's just meant that I've not been able to put as much time in. But I'm hoping sort of mid-March onwards, I should have a lot more time to make some more videos. So I do really enjoy it. But sometimes life has to take priority, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And I've got the same thing. I've got a big life event right on the horizon, so which is going to really reduce my time for a short while, and then I'll be able to pick it up again. So I'm working on TTs for the Star Trek films. The reason why I would wanted to do this discussion was because I was I'm currently editing the motion picture TT. I've just finished writing the script for Star Trek 4. I've got up to now. So
nice one.
So yeah, I'm going to try and get those onto the channel. We've also got Batman. And we'll keep doing some discussions. I've still got to get the Star Wars discussion videos on, which I'm hoping I'll be able to work on at the weekend. So we'll try and get those up. So there's going to be stuff on the channel, but we're not going to be as frequent as we were before Christmas.
No, the lives are good because for anyone who's interested, it may be people switched off by now, I don't know. But the amount of time that goes into making a TT is just enormous. It can take, the Crow one I did, I think that took me 20 plus hours. That's a long time. Whereas the lives, obviously, you can just jump straight on. So I was hoping at some point we might do another Civil War, but I don't know how popular that was.
We'll try and do that. We'll try and do that. We're getting more and more viewers, and we're getting more and more subscribers. We're still a very, very small channel. We're a little tiny niche corner of YouTube. So I think anybody who's out there who watches our stuff and likes our stuff or anything like that, we really do appreciate it.
Yeah, and also see a doctor.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. Thank you to everybody who takes an interest, because we both work really hard on it, and we're just a couple of nerds at the end of the day.
Very much so. Yeah.
That's what makes us special. We are not special. We are just normal, everyday dudes who feel very strongly about certain films, and we just like talking about them.
Absolutely. And if you ever disagree with anything we say, then write in the comments, and then we'll delete that comment.
Hey, we've never yet deleted a comment, have we?
No, we haven't. No, we haven't.
We ignore a lot.
We ignore a lot because we don't want to get into arguments.
I mean, you had one the other day, right? Didn't you? And it just said stupid. We had no idea what that was in reference. Was it you or what?
Was I stupid? Was the film stupid? Or I don't know. I mean,
it just said stupid.
The comment just disappeared. So yeah, I don't know.
Because what tends to happen, is if someone leaves just a comment like that, we don't tend to respond. We just text each other and just have a bit of a laugh about it.
Goodness, loser.
We do have some lols about it. I don't think we've yet been upset by anybody, have we?
No, nobody's upset us yet. So there's your task, YouTube. Anybody out there wants to upset us, come on. Let's have your best.
But yeah, so yeah, things are going well, I think. But I mean, we always knew it was going to be slow in January because January is a slow month anyway, and we've both been busy. February's come and gone like bloody. It's whipped by. February has
whipped by, yeah.
And then we're soon into March, so
gonna be Christmas soon.
Yeah, yeah. Well, some people have already got the decorations up. I've noticed.
Yeah, they just haven't taken them down.
That's a joke. That's a joke.
Oh, yes.
I'm happy with our list, and
Yeah,
I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been really good. So I think we'll end that there. So anybody who's going to watch this later, thank you very much. Anybody who's already watching it, thank you very much. And I've been Colm from the Critical Cinema Club.
And I've been Sean. Thank you very much for watching as well.
And we'll see you very soon.
Goodbye.